Chapter 338. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. The wolf puppet swiped past Du Xiaofu's back, tearing the air apart. Damn it, this puppet is so strong. Du Xiaofu cursed loudly. There was simply no way to fight against this puppet, nor could he resist it head-on. If he were to fight against this terrifying puppet, he would lose all his advantages. Not only would he not gain any advantage, he would also be at a disadvantage. Chi! The wolf puppet disappeared in a flash. Even its speed was extremely terrifying, chasing after Du Xiaofu like a shadow. Claw after claw, accompanied by fierce energy and runes, shot out explosively, engulfing Du Xiaofu. Relying on the wave-like carefree steps, Du Xiaofu was still able to dodge with difficulty. However, if this were to go on for a long time, it would not be a good idea. This toy is probably not much worse than a practitioner weapon. Suddenly, Du Xiaoyao, who was on Du Xiaofu's shoulder, laughed. Looking at the wolf puppet that was chasing after them, her face was full of smiles. In her pale golden eyes, there was a look like a child who had seen candy. Whoosh! Just as his voice fell, Du Xiaoyao moved. Golden light erupted from his body, and his figure was like a golden ray of light that flashed towards the wolf puppet that was chasing after him. Golden talisman markings spread out, and directly destroyed the wolf puppet's claw that swung over once again as easily as crushing dry weeds. Kacha, kacha, then, Du Xiaoyao's body expanded, transforming into the huge golden ape body. A terrifying aura exploded in front of Hua Fankong's dumbfounded eyes. Then, she opened her mouth and bit down on the wolf puppet's claw, and a crisp, kacha, kacha, sound immediately rang out. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The wolf puppet was directly damaged from the claw, and pieces of the rune puppet's body were missing. At this moment, Du Xiaoyao opened her big mouth and chewed them up and swallowed them into her stomach at lightning speed. Under the wolf puppet's ice-cold gaze that was still filled with killing intent, in less than a few breaths, a puppet that could deal with a martial lord at the Nirvana realm was completely eaten by Du Xiaoyao. This thing is really not bad. The taste is similar to the practitioner weapon I ate last time. Du Xiaoyao's huge body was wrapped in golden light, and a satisfied smile appeared in her eyes. Du Xiaofu was shocked. He didn't expect Du Xiaoyao to be so powerful. Not only could she swallow spirit tools and talisman weapons, she could even swallow this terrifying puppet. When he saw Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaofu's expression immediately turned ugly. He glared at Du Xiaofu and said, Du Xiaoyao, why didn't you take action earlier? You made me get chased for so long. I like to see you in a sorry state. Only then can I prove that I'm stronger than you. Du Xiaoyao said bluntly. Then, she ignored Du Xiaofu and immediately looked at the wolf puppet that was fighting with Yi Piaoling. Yi Piaoling had already activated the Serene Python to fight the wolf puppet. The Serene Python's sword light streaked across the space, and in the blossoming sparks, it was able to leave marks on the sturdy puppet. However, it was unable to destroy the terrifying wolf puppet immediately. Leave this puppet to me. Du Xiaoyao appeared, and golden light burst out from her body. The golden talisman inscription spread out and enveloped the wolf puppet. Then, under Yi Piaoling's shocked gaze, the wolf puppet directly became food in Du Xiaoyao's mouth and disappeared with a cracking sound. Gulp. Hua Fankong, who had been watching from the side, swallowed his saliva and looked at Du Xiaoyao. He was so shocked that he couldn't retract his jaw for a long time. So full. After swallowing the two puppets, Du Xiaoyao's body turned into the size of a little macaque and landed on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. She burped with satisfaction. So strong. Yi Piaoling looked at Du Xiaoyao and was also dumbfounded. Then, he put the Serene Python back into his body. It's down there. Du Xiaofu's gaze fell on the terrifying and serene gorge at the bottom of the valley. There were fluctuations that ordinary people couldn't detect. That terrifying aura was about to erupt, and it was incomparably ferocious. What's down there? Yi Piaoling asked Du Xiaofu. He looked at the deep valley, but he couldn't sense any fluctuations. In fact, there was nothing special in the deep gorge. I don't know what's down there. Du Xiaofu said to Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong seriously, it might be very dangerous down there. Do you guys want to go? Since we're already here, of course we have to go. Yi Piaoling looked indifferent and didn't have the slightest intention to retreat. Hua Fankong naturally knew that there might be danger down there. The two puppets just now came out from there. He looked at Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling, then looked at Du Xiaoyao. Finally, he gritted his teeth and nodded, saying, then I'll go with you. Then be careful. Du Xiaofu said with a serious expression. Then, the three of them moved their qi and landed in the deep gorge. Whoosh! The three of them landed slowly. When they were about 100 meters down, the two sides of the gorge were like deep cliffs. The surroundings were shrouded in clouds and mist, which made the place even more terrifying. The gorge was hundreds of meters long. The three of them landed in the gorge, which was deep and dark. It was a desolate place. Why is the aura down there so terrifying? After landing, Hua Fankong's expression changed slightly. In the depths of the gorge, there was an invisible aura that made his heart tremble and his hair stand on end. Someone has been here. They must have been killed by the puppets just now. Yi Piaoling's gaze fell on the dozens of corpses not far away. They were all torn apart. It wasn't hard to tell that they were killed by the wolf puppets just now. It's here. I found it. The seal is here. Du Xiaoyao stared at the thick cliff not far away. Her pale golden eyes were full of seriousness. She said to Du Xiaofu seriously, Du Xiaofu, do you feel it? The aura inside is terrifying. Do you want to go in? Within the stone walls of the cliff, Du Xiaofu could also feel the traces of the seal. The aura within the seal made people tremble and their souls throb. Fortune comes from danger. Maybe the revered artifact cave that everyone is looking for is inside. Du Xiaofu murmured in his heart. Then, he clenched his teeth and said to Du Xiaoyao, of course we'll go in. If there is danger, we'll come out. Okay. But let's make a deal. If there are treasures, we'll split them in half. Du Xiaoyao reminded Du Xiaofu. She didn't trust Du Xiaofu on this point. Du Xiaofu glanced at Du Xiaoyao and said to Yi Piaoling, there is a seal inside. Du Xiaoyao and I have some special means to go in. But I'm afraid you guys won't be able to. You guys go in. I'll wait for you here. Be careful. Yi Piaoling said. She looked around suspiciously. There was no energy fluctuation nearby. Was there really a seal? You guys be careful too. After Du Xiaofu said that, he looked at the sky above the gully covered by clouds. He scratched his chin with his index finger and a smile appeared on his face. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but feel happy when he thought about how many experts were searching for the revered weapon cave mansion. Now that the revered weapon cave mansion was right in front of him, he decided to let them search for it slowly. Seeing the smile on Du Xiaofu's face, Yi Piaoling's eyes slightly moved and asked, what are you smiling about? Nothing. You guys be careful. Du Xiaofu naturally couldn't say what he was thinking. After saying that, he and Du Xiaoyao looked at each other. Then, under the shocked gazes of Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong, the runes around Du Xiaofu's body flashed. He communicated with his martial vein and a five-fingered mountain spread out. Boom! As Du Xiaofu's martial vein appeared, dense spiritual energy spread out, derived, evolved, and communicated with the energy of heaven and earth. A terrifying power suddenly spread out and covered Du Xiaofu's body under the mountain's shadow. Phew! At the same time, the mysterious golden runes on the surface of Du Xiaoyao's body flickered and spread over the mountain's shadow around Du Xiaofu in an instant. Swish! The two merged into one, and in the end, it directly rushed toward the cliff in front of it. Then, the golden light swept in and disappeared into the cliff. What kind of technique is this? After watching Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao disappear into the cliff with his own eyes, Hua Fankong's gaze trembled. After rubbing his eyes, his entire being became sluggish. In the mysterious and huge space, not even a blade of grass grew. A murderous aura filled the sky. In the space, 4 huge mountains stood facing each other from afar. They towered into the clouds and were arranged in a square. The surrounding cliffs were so steep that they seemed to be cut by axes. The mountains were so majestic that they seemed to be broken. Boom! In the space, heaven and earth trembled and the 4 huge mountains swayed. On top of the 4 huge mountains, there was a huge dazzling light that swept across the sky like a divine light. It communicated with the energy of heaven and earth and finally gathered together. 4 huge beams of divine light converged in the air above the 4 mountain peaks facing each other from afar, forming a huge ball of light that was several hundred feet in size. Above the ball of light, multicolored light spread and mysterious runes filled the sky. The terrifying aura seemed to be able to collapse the world. Buzz buzz. Within the ball of light, there was a faint sound. It was like a dragon's roar, a tiger's roar, a sparrow's cry, and a turtle's cry. When the sound gathered together, it was like a thunderstorm, like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of gods. It was so terrifying that it was indescribable. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the space. As soon as his figure appeared, the murderous aura collapsed, causing the profound energy in his body to stagnate. The thunderstorm and the wailing of ghosts and the howling of gods caused his soul to feel a piercing pain. He felt as if he was about to faint. Chapter 339. Just as he was about to faint, Du Xiaofu's heart suddenly trembled, his soul throbbing. Then, he bit down hard on the tip of his tongue, and a sharp pain immediately came from the tip of his tongue. A stream of pale golden blood spurted out, and only then did he recover from his fainting state. Then, Du Xiaofu's shocked gaze saw clearly that in this vast space, above each of the 4 towering mountain peaks, a dazzling ray of light, like divine light, had gathered into a dazzling ball of light. An astonishing aura spread out from within the ball of light. The astonishing sound that came from within the ball of light was even more soul-shaking, like the roars of dragons and tigers, the cries of birds and turtles. Within the ball of light, one could vaguely make out a dazzling rectangular object wrapped in mysterious runes. The astonishing roars of dragons and tigers, the cries of birds and turtles, spread out from within the ball of light. A monstrous baleful aura swept out, as if it was struggling with all its might, roaring in resistance. However, that astonishing baleful aura was currently tightly suppressed by the divine light on the 4 towering mountain peaks. No matter how much it struggled, it was unable to break free for a while. However, the 4 towering mountain peaks were also on the verge of collapse at this moment, as if they would not be able to hold on for much longer. What a terrifying aura! Du Xiaoyao's gaze was filled with wariness at this moment, her gaze fixed on the object tightly wrapped within the ball of divine light. The fearless Du Xiaoyao's expression was grave at this moment. Who would have thought that a mere Meridian Spirit Realm practitioner would actually be able to break into my 4 directions baleful seal? So you are also a dual practitioner of Martial Dao and Talisman Dao. At this moment, an ancient voice rang out. Just as Du Xiaofu was in shock, a figure of cultivation appeared within the dazzling ball of light. Talisman scripts flashed, and a stream of talisman script light instantly swept through the air, landing directly in front of Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao. This was an old man who looked to be in his 50s. His long black hair was draped over his shoulders, and his red robe covered his body. He had a wide forehead and a square face, and his aura was extraordinary. This was especially true for the old man's deep eyes under his thick eyebrows. Flame runes could be faintly seen leaping in the depths of his eyes, causing one to feel as if one had fallen into the magma at the core of the earth. The mental energy in one's mind would be completely incinerated, and one's soul would wither in pain from the burning. The figure of the old man was rather illusory. It was clearly a Yuan spirit body. However, even though it was a Yuan spirit body, the surrounding space was directly distorted. Every move he made seemed to control the world. Every move he made caused the surrounding space to ripple. A terrifying aura vaguely spread, causing Du Xiaofu's body to tremble. What a terrifying aura! It's too strong. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt a deep sense of powerlessness for the first time when he faced this old man. It was like he was facing the heavens and the earth, and the profound energy within his body was on the verge of stopping while his soul was trembling. He didn't even have the courage to resist this old man. As the old man appeared, his gaze was fixed on Du Xiaoyao, who was beside Du Xiaofu. There was a look of doubt in his eyes, and flame runes constantly flickered in the depths of his eyes. After a while, the old man's expression became extremely shocked. He looked at Du Xiaoyao and exclaimed, "In the universe, there are 5 spirits: heaven, earth, God, human, and ghost. There are also 5 insects: Ho, scale, hair, feather, and Kuan. Your macaque is not heaven, earth, God, human, or ghost. It's also not Ho, scale, hair, feather, or Kuan. You're one of the 4 monkeys. As a red-bone macaque, your origin is even more extraordinary. You understand yin and yang, understand human affairs, and are adept at entering and exiting. No wonder you could enter my 4 directions ominous seal. I never thought that I would be able to see such a naturally revered creature in the dark forest. This guy is really formidable. He actually knows about my origins." Du Xiaoyao was shocked. Her body immediately flew to Du Xiaofu's shoulder, and her gaze was fixed on the old man's body. There was an unprecedented graveness in her eyes. Du Xiaofu's body slightly retreated. He was prepared to think of a way to escape with Du Xiaoyao at any time, but he didn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Faint golden blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Du Xiaofu continuously bit the tip of his tongue, using the sharp pain to keep his mind clear. A terrifying sound was transmitted from the light ball that was tightly locked on the mountain peak. It was constantly shaking people's souls, as if it was trying to destroy their souls. "Kid, don't be nervous. Although your strength is not enough, you have a divine object like the red-bone horse monkey by your side. This proves that you are also a person blessed by the heavens. Being able to enter the 4 directions baleful sky seal proves that you have such an opportunity. There isn't much time left, so I can't explain too much to you. You are also a spirit symbol master. Condense a spiritual furnace and let me take a look first." As the old man's voice fell, he swept his scarlet gown, and an incorporeal fluctuation of energy was emitted, immediately wrapping Du Xiaofu's body. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu, whose soul was still trembling and his profound energy stagnating, was instantly no longer affected by that overflowing fiendish aura. Du Xiaofu looked at the old man in front of him. After a slight hesitation, he condensed one hand seal after another. Bang! Suddenly, runes spread all over Du Xiaofu's body, before finally condensing into a spiritual furnace and a symbol cauldron. White, green, black, red and yellow, these 5 kinds of energy radiance soared to the sky, and even a kind of faint golden radiance appeared. Mysterious runes flickered incessantly, and a terrifying aura burst out. 5 elemental runes, an all-round spirit symbol master, an initial spirit symbol master at the 4th star level, but his mental force is far from comparable to others at the same level. It looks like the heavens are treating me well, to be able to send me such a person. Looking at the spiritual furnace and symbol cauldron condensed by Du Xiaofu, the old man in his 50s revealed a look of surprise, and even faintly astonishment. Seeing the condensed spiritual furnace and symbol cauldron condensed with 5 kinds of runes, with his eyesight, he naturally knew what this represented. Du Xiaofu looked at the old man in front of him. Withdrawing his hand seals, the spiritual furnace and symbol cauldron turned into dazzling runes and returned to his body. Gathering his courage, he asked the old man, "May I ask if you are senior revered artifact?" "Revered artifact, The old man in his 50s laughed out loud. "It's been a long time since I heard someone call me that. At that time, someone gave me this title. It looks like, little brat, you have also come to seek treasures. You are really a revered artifact." Du Xiaofu was shocked as he looked at the 50-something-year-old man in front of him. Although he had already vaguely guessed the identity of this 50-something-year-old man, he still could not help but be deeply shocked when he heard the old man personally admit it. Revered Artifact was a super powerhouse whose name shook the whole central continent 1,000 years ago. An 8-star spirit symbol master, dominating the region in terms of refining weapons. He was a terrifying existence equivalent to a martial saint. "Greetings, senior revered artifact." After recovering from his shock, Du Xiaofu bowed in the manner of a junior, neither servile nor overbearing, and not lacking in manners. Rumble. At the same time Du Xiaofu bowed, the whole space shook violently, and the 4 towering mountains were on the verge of collapsing. Divine radiance trembled, and on the surface of the 4 mountains, cracks immediately appeared. Buzz, buzz. Inside the divine radiance, the rectangular light wrapped by the mysterious runes became more and more dazzling. The roars of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles became more and more soul-stirring. Wind and thunder rumbled, and ghosts cried and gods howled. "Rise, it's too late. There's not much time left. This ominous thing can't be suppressed any longer." The revered artifact looked at Du Xiaofu, and a dignified expression appeared in his eyes. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Little brat, what's your name? How old are you?" Little brat, Du Xiaofu, almost 17 years old. Du Xiaofu felt the aura of the revered artifact. Although the aura was oppressive, it wasn't harmful to him, so he relaxed a little. 17 years old, 4-star spirit symbol master, pulse spiritual realm cultivation. You're quite talented. There seems to be something special about you. The revered artifact looked at Du Xiaofu, and then said, Du Xiaofu, let me ask you, are you willing to be my disciple? What? Du Xiaofu immediately stared at the revered artifact in front of him. He felt that this super expert, who had been famous in the Central Plains for thousands of years, shouldn't be a bad person. As the saying goes, one's appearance is determined by one's heart. Looking at his majestic appearance, he didn't seem like an evil person. After a short pause, he asked, Senior, you want me to be your disciple? If I become your disciple, there won't be any special rules, right? Also, if you have something important to ask me to do, I'm afraid it's difficult for me to take on such a big responsibility. After saying this, Du Xiaofu continued to look at the revered artifact's expression. Although Du Xiaofu's words were extremely tactful, the meaning was very clear. If the revered artifact asked him to do something special, or something that was against his will or beyond his ability, he wouldn't do it. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the revered artifact couldn't help but be stunned. If he, the revered artifact, had said that he wanted to recruit a disciple, not to mention the Central Plains, even the whole continent, would have flocked to him and given everything to be his disciple. But now, this little brat wanted to make it clear. He was afraid that he would suffer a big loss, or else he wouldn't be willing to be his disciple. Chapter 340. You little rascal, you're quite clever. That's not bad. Being a little clever is naturally better than being a little stupid. You'll also avoid being taken advantage of in the future. The venerable weapon gently shook his head and comforted himself. Then, he said to Du Xiaofu, time is short, and I don't have time to test your temperament. With the red-bone horse monkey by your side, I'm afraid you won't be an evil person. After pausing for a moment, the venerable weapon continued to speak to Du Xiaofu, you can also rest assured. You won't lose out if you acknowledge me as your master. Although I've taken in a few nominal disciples in my life, none of them have received my true teachings. It's not that I don't teach them, but those nominal disciples either lack talent or have bad temperaments, so they couldn't receive my true teachings. Since you become my disciple, of course you'll receive my true teachings. However, how much you can achieve in the future will depend on yourself." Hearing the Venerable Weapon's words, Du Xiaofu immediately knelt on the ground without hesitation. After kowtowing 3 times, he looked up at the Venerable Weapon with great respect and said, "Disciple Du Xiaofu pays his respects to Master. Everything is simple. Rise and rise. From now on, you're my disciple." Seeing Du Xiaofu bow respectfully, the Venerable Weapon's face revealed a satisfied smile. However, his gaze immediately turned serious. Rumble. As the Venerable Weapon finished speaking, the 4 towering mountains behind him shook again, and cracks appeared on the surface of the mountains. "You're already a primordial spirit body. You can't trap me. It's been 1,300 years. You can't trap me anymore." Within the ball of light, the mysterious runes of the talisman bloomed endlessly. A shocking roar came out. The roar was like thunder, shaking the 4 towering mountains. 4 huge rays of divine light trembled, and a ferocious and terrifying aura surged wildly. "Master, what's in there?" Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled as he looked at the ball of light. At that moment, the ball of light formed by the divine light seemed to be on the verge of collapsing as if the monstrous beast was about to break free. The Venerable Weapon looked back at the object suppressed by the 4 mountains behind him, and then looked at Du Xiaofu. His deep eyes slightly narrowed, revealing a deep and dignified look. He said, "That is the magic weapon that I have refined. 1,500 years ago, I got a meteorite from outer space. I thought it was a divine material for refining weapons, so I prepared it for 200 years. With the azure dragon scale, white tiger bone, phoenix feather, and black tortoise shell as supplements, I wanted to refine a peerless magic weapon." Oh my God! Du Xiaofu could not help but gasp when he heard this. The azure dragon scale, white tiger bone, phoenix feather, black tortoise shell, azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, and black tortoise were the 4 terrifying beasts that ranked in the top 10 on the heavenly beast list. When Big Brother Zhen Qingchun mentioned the heavenly beast list, he specifically mentioned that the strongest demonic beasts on the list were the azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, and black tortoise. They were all top existences, equivalent to the king of monsters. Any one of them had the power to command all other beasts. However, his master, the Venerable Weapon, wanted to use the azure dragon scale, white tiger bone, phoenix feather, and black tortoise shell as supplements to refine a peerless magic weapon. In this world, how many people could do this, and how many people dared to do this? The Venerable Weapon paused for a moment, looked at Du Xiaofu, and his eyes became more and more dignified. He said, "Just when I was about to refine this peerless magic weapon, an unexpected accident happened. In the meteorite of unknown origin, a divine evil spirit appeared. Just when the magic weapon was about to be completed, the divine evil spirit woke up and merged with the azure dragon scale, white tiger bone, phoenix feather, and black tortoise shell. With the power of the 4 beasts, the divine evil spirit became the soul of the magic weapon, and its power was not much lower than mine. At that time, I knew that all the problems were because of the meteorite. I don't know where the meteorite came from, but there was a divine evil spirit sealed inside. Because of my refinement, the divine evil spirit was able to see the light of day again. After merging with the azure dragon scale, white tiger bone, phoenix feather, and black tortoise shell, it became even more terrifying. If it was allowed to grow, with the character of the divine evil spirit, it would definitely bring disaster to the world, and blood would flow like rivers. The more creatures it killed, the stronger it would become. At that time, no one would be able to subdue it. Even if someone could subdue it, their mind would be corroded, and they would be controlled by the divine evil spirit instead, becoming its slave. Taking advantage of the fact that the divine evil spirit had just become the soul of the magic weapon, and was not too strong, I was able to barely suppress it with all my strength. I wanted to find a way to destroy it in the future, so that the peerless magic weapon would not bring disaster to the world, and blood would flow like rivers. Who would have thought that when the news that I had refined a peerless magic weapon spread out, a good friend of mine suddenly attacked me when I was in a weakened state. Without any other choice, I had to abandon my physical body and enter the magic weapon with my primordial spirit. Fortunately, before I refined the magic weapon, I was worried that something would happen. I was afraid that if there was an accident, I would have a place to go. This seal was set up at that time, but I didn't expect that it would be used on the magic weapon in the end. Unfortunately, after 1,300 years, the Four Directions Divine Evil Seal can no longer suppress the magic weapon. After saying all of this in one breath, the venerable weapon looked at Du Xiaofu with a dignified expression and said, 1,300 years, even though the magic weapon was suppressed by my Four Directions Divine Evil Seal, during this 1,300 years, the magic weapon's soul, the divine evil spirit, had completely fused with the weapon and became a living creature. Now, if this magic weapon were to escape, it would be enough to bring disaster to the world. At that time, not to mention that the entire central continent would be bathed in blood, if it were to be obtained by someone with evil intentions, they would join forces. I'm afraid no one in the world would be able to resist them. Cuckoo. Upon hearing this, Du Xiaofu was dumbfounded and then gasped after hearing his venerable weapon say so much in one breath. It was rumored that Master Revered Weapon had failed in refining a peerless divine weapon. It was true. However, Master Revered Weapon could only be considered as a half-failure. He had only refined a peerless divine weapon into a peerless lethal weapon. You can't trap me. You can't trap me anymore. Inside the light ball, there was an astonishing roar. The dazzling mysterious runes soared into the sky, and the power of the magic weapon intensified like a volcanic eruption. Buzz buzz. Inside the light ball, there were bursts of wind and thunder, and the cries of ghosts and gods were like the roars of gods and demons. The terrifying aura of the magic weapon swept out. Bang 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 bang. Four energy sonic booms exploded like thunder. The four towering mountains shook violently and finally could not help but explode. Boom boom boom. The four astonishing mountains collapsed and collapsed with terrifying power. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed, and it made people feel like they were about to be destroyed. However, the collapse of the four astonishingly huge mountains did not turn into countless boulders. Instead, it turned into monstrous runes that shattered into pieces. Whoosh! The dazzling runes came one after another and covered this part of the world. It was as if there was a torrential rune storm in this part of the world. The entire world was trembling violently, swaying as if it was about to destroy and overturn this sealed space. Boom boom boom. At the same time, in the outside world, in the sealed land, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The ground shook violently as if there was an earthquake. A terrifying aura descended upon the entire space, making people's souls tremble. What's going on? Is the real venerable weapon's cave abode born? Is the sealed land about to be destroyed? Countless people were shocked and uneasy, but no one knew what was going on. At this time, the people in the outside world did not know that the venerable weapon's cave abode that they had worked so hard to find had been secretly entered by Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao. The venerable weapon, who had shocked the entire Central Plains 1,000 years ago, had taken Du Xiaofu as his disciple. Bang bang. As the four mountains within the Four Directions Heaven Fiend Seal crumbled into runes that filled the sky, the four beams of light that were as dazzling as divine light also crumbled and broke apart. Finally, the huge rune light sphere also began to crack. You can't trap me. Huh, you can't trap me. The roar resounded, and the wind and thunder rumbled. The light cluster was completely shattered, and the runes in the sky were shattered. The rune light screen was dazzling like fireworks. An extremely terrifying aura, as if it came from the Nine Serenities, from the realm of demons. The ferocious aura rushed to the world and collapsed the sky. Whoosh! At this time, the space between heaven and earth trembled. Within the light cluster, the dazzling rune appeared. At the same time, the rune with a purple and gold color emitted a dazzling light, forming a purple and gold space vortex. Boom! Within the purple and gold vortex, the ferocious aura swept out like a hurricane. The light was dazzling, containing the power of the dragon and tiger and the martial chi of the phoenix. It was so dazzling that people could not look directly at it. Under the dazzling light, Du Xiaofu stared at the sky. At this time, if it were not for his master, the venerable weapon, protecting him, his soul would have been shattered by the ferocious aura. Under the dazzling light, Du Xiaofu was finally able to faintly see the appearance of a peerless weapon. Rumble. As the peerless weapon was revealed, the world shook. The talisman blossomed and expanded. A terrifying fiendish aura frantically rippled, devouring the surrounding energy of the world. It frantically absorbed the energy of the world in this space. Under this crazy absorption, Du Xiaofu, who was protected by his master, the venerable weapon, also felt that the qi in his body was about to be swallowed by the purple and gold vortex. Today's update is complete. Chapter 341. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. In the middle of the terrifying vortex, a broadsword half the height of a person appeared. Boom! Around the broadsword, the space vibrated. The talisman patterns shone brightly, absorbing all the energy of heaven and earth in a frenzy. As the purple gold light bloomed, the broadsword looked like the god of all weapons, peerless in the sky. Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the broadsword. It was much longer and wider than ordinary swords. The tip of the sword was slightly sharper, and from the hilt to the hilt, it was 2 palms wide. From the 2 sides of the hilt, there was a perfect arc of secret patterns that extended to the middle of the sword, like the wings of a phoenix that wanted to spread its wings and soar into the sky. The sword was purple gold in color, with the bones of a tiger and the shape of a dragon. On one side, there was a green dragon pattern, and on the other, there was a black tortoise pattern. The faint roar of a dragon and tortoise could be heard, as if the green dragon was soaring into the sky and the black tortoise was entrenched. The hilt of the sword was in the shape of a tiger beast. It roared ferociously, as if it was about to pounce. It was inexplicably shocking. Buzz buzz. The peerless weapon roared, the dragon roared, the tiger roared, the sparrow and the tortoise cried. Amidst the dazzling talisman patterns on the sword, there was a sky full of dazzling talisman light. The faint shadow of a green dragon soared into the sky, the shadow of a white tiger entrenched, the shadow of a phoenix flapped its wings, and the shadow of a black tortoise suppressed the heaven and earth. Such a peerless weapon, floating in the air, was like a peerless demon god that had awakened, overlooking the heaven and earth, enough to destroy everything. Is this the peerless weapon? Du Xiaofu was shocked. At this moment, even with the protection of his master, the revered weapon, looking at the peerless weapon made his soul feel like it was about to wither and be destroyed. So strong, too strong. Du Xiaoyao was also shocked. That terrifying aura made her pale golden spirit eyes filled with absolute fear. It was originally a peerless weapon, the heavenly palace of purple gold, but now it has become a peerless weapon. If this item is born, the entire world will be filled with cries. At that time, blood will flow like rivers. This item shouldn't have been refined. I'm afraid I have suffered the wrath of the heavens for ending up like this. Looking at the peerless weapon, the weapon sovereign sighed. His expression was extremely solemn. Du Xiaoyao, aren't you able to devour all spiritual weapons? Can you devour that sword? Du Xiaofu immediately asked Du Xiaoyao, who was on his shoulder. At this moment, he had placed a lot of hope on Du Xiaoyao. I feel that the murderous weapon wants to devour me. It's too strong. If I become stronger, I won't be afraid of it. But now, I can't. I feel that I can't devour it. Du Xiaoyao was full of fear. Facing that peerless weapon, she felt that she couldn't devour it at all. Now, she could only be afraid. Although the red-bone horse ape is strong and its body can devour all spiritual weapons, the heavenly palace of purple gold is made of the meteorite that trapped the divine evil spirit. Together with the azure dragon's scales, the white tiger's bones, the phoenix's feathers, and the black tortoise's shell, it can't be devoured or destroyed. Now that the divine evil spirit has become the soul of this weapon, it's even more difficult to deal with, said the weapon sovereign. I've already escaped. No one can trap me anymore. Only by killing you and obtaining your primordial spirit can I reach the most perfect and strongest state. Above the peerless murderous weapon, the heavenly palace of purple gold was dazzling like the sun. No one dared to look directly at it. A looming shadow of a head appeared in the sky, like the head of a fiend god. A monstrous evil spirit swept out and tightly locked onto the weapon sovereign. Occasionally, one could see the shadow of a dragon, the crouching tiger, and the posture of a phoenix in the dazzling light. Du Xiaofu, my disciple. Now, there's only one way to suppress this peerless murderous weapon, and I can't do it alone. Even if you join in, I'm afraid there's no chance. But with the red-bone horse ape, there's a little more chance of success. It seems that there's God's will in the unseen world. The weapon sovereign looked at the terrifying head of the fiend god spreading out from the peerless murderous weapon and immediately turned back to speak to Du Xiaofu seriously. Master, what's the way? Du Xiaofu asked. The weapon sovereign squinted his deep eyes, revealing an indescribably overbearing aura. He said, this peerless murderous weapon can escape, but after all, it's made by me. It's not easy to get out of my hands. I'll enter the weapon with the power of my primordial spirit to suppress the weapon's soul. The red-bone horse ape beside you will assist in suppressing the weapon's body. Together with my suppression, it should be enough. Master, what should I do? Du Xiaofu asked the weapon sovereign. The weapon sovereign looked at Du Xiaofu and said, you're the most important. After the red-bone horse ape and I suppress the weapon's body and soul, you'll drip your blood on the weapon to recognize it as its master. Then, you'll place a soul mark on it and cultivate a new weapon spirit. That's all we can do for now. Once the weapon spirit strengthens and destroys the weapon's soul, the peerless weapon will reappear. But this is also a delaying tactic. The chance of success is very slim. Then, the weapon sovereign looked at Du Xiaofu and said in a deep voice, although this is a delaying tactic, it can only succeed. If it fails, you, me, and the red-bone horse ape will not only disappear, but this peerless weapon is made by me. If it obtains my primordial spirit, it will reach its strongest state. At that time, I'm afraid that no one will be able to control it. Plus, with the red-bone horse ape's body, it'll be like adding wings to a tiger. Once it reaches its peak, no one in this world will be able to suppress it. Phew! Hearing this, Du Xiaofu sucked in a breath of cold air. If he succeeded, although he would be able to obtain this peerless weapon, it would be equivalent to carrying a ticking time bomb by his side. However, if he failed, he would directly turn into ashes. And at this moment, there was no other way. Du Xiaoyao, what about you? Do you want to help us? Du Xiaofu asked Du Xiaoyao. Although Du Xiaoyao was following him, he had no right to decide for Du Xiaoyao in such a dangerous situation. I have no choice but to help. That terrifying weapon seems to have sealed the space inside. I can't get out. Du Xiaoyao had a helpless look on his face as he sensed the qi in this space. The space was frozen, sealed and solidified by the monstrous murderous qi outside the protection of the venerable artifact. That qi was extremely strange, and even Du Xiaoyao would find it difficult to escape. Master, let's do it. Hearing Du Xiaoyao's words, Du Xiaofu immediately said to the weapon sovereign. You only have 3 days. You must succeed in 3 days. The space inside the four-sided ominous seal can hold for 3 more days at most. In the whole central province, few people can sense the four-sided ominous seal that I set up. But this place will collapse in 3 days at most. At that time, if we can't suppress this peerless weapon, it will be exposed. Maybe at this time, many experts of the central province will come. Once the peerless weapon appears, we can't suppress it anymore. The weapon sovereign told Du Xiaofu. You can't do anything to me. Go to hell. In mid-air, the head of the terrifying demon god that had transformed from the peerless weapon let out a loud cry. Then, a ray of sword light shot out from its mouth towards the primordial spirit of venerable weapon. The moment the sword light appeared, ghosts cried and gods howled. It drew a thunderous purple-gold light in mid-air. It was like a purple-gold thunderbolt. It was ferocious and destructive. It instantly appeared in front of venerable weapon. How dare you, evil spirit! You're not strong enough now. The weapon sovereign shouted and waved his hand. A talisman energy swept across the sky and blocked the sword light. Boom! The two energies collided fiercely. The space rumbled and trembled as if it was going to turn the world upside down. The dazzling light spread out like a hurricane. Du Xiaofu's pupils constricted as he saw a terrifying scene appear in the sky as his master, the revered weapon, and the head of the gods and demons attacked. Countless cracks appeared in the space. This level of strength was beyond his imagination. Is this the power of the primordial spirit of an 8-star spiritual talisman master? Du Xiaofu was shocked as he looked at such a terrifying scene. Even if a martial king were to face an 8-star spirit talisman master, he would probably be smacked to death with just a wave of his hand. Woo, woo, at the same time, the terrifying energy spread out. The huge head of the divine demon roared and finally dissipated into dazzling talisman light. Xiaofu, get ready to suppress the murderous weapon. Seeing this, the revered weapon let out a soft cry. His primordial spirit body was wrapped in a supreme light and was tightly wrapped by runes. Then, it turned into a divine light and swept across the sky like a bolt of lightning. It directly plunged into the peerless weapon that was suspended in mid-air. Chapter 342. As the primordial spirit of the weapon revered plunged into the murderous weapon, the weapon suddenly trembled, and the surrounding dazzling talisman patterns also dimmed. As the primordial spirit of the weapon revered entered the murderous weapon, without the protection of the weapon revered, the terrifying murderous aura that spread from the murderous weapon immediately made Du Xiaofu shudder. His qi stagnated, and his soul throbbed. Fortunately, as the weapon revered entered the murderous weapon, more than half of the terrifying murderous aura that spread from the weapon dissipated. Otherwise, just the faint aura of this terrifying fiendish qi would be enough to suppress and destroy Du Xiaofu. You came to me of your own accord. You can't deal with me. Within the murderous weapon, there was a faint roar. Boom! Then, the murderous weapon trembled violently, and the surrounding space was completely distorted. It was as if there was a terrifying energy that was about to erupt like a volcano, but it was constantly suppressed by an invisible force. I'm going to help. Be careful. Du Xiaoyao looked at the ultimate ferocious weapon. The talisman symbols around his body flickered in a dazzling manner after his words sounded. The mountain peak itself floated out. After which, it turned into a huge body that was dozens of feet in size. It rushed through the air and heavily smashed onto the ultimate ferocious weapon. Crash! In an instant, endless dazzling light burst out from Du Xiaoyao's mountain. The talisman patterns were incomparably dazzling, like a sun in the sky. The power made the entire space tremble violently, as if it wanted to suppress and destroy this space. Then, Du Xiaoyao's mountain body directly collapsed, and the murderous weapon, which was already immovable, suddenly became completely immovable. How can there be such an existence? The heavens are really helping me. If I can get it to merge with my body, then no one can do anything to me. Although the murderous weapon was suppressed to the point that it could not move, its voice was filled with greed. Then, the sword body, which was suppressed to the point that it could not move, also began to change and expand in an instant. The talisman patterns flickered brightly, and in an instant, it turned into an astonishing volume of several hundred feet, much larger than Du Xiaoyao's body. On the murderous weapon, the murderous aura became more and more terrifying, trying to break free from the suppression of Du Xiaoyao's body. Hulala! The golden talisman patterns on Du Xiaoyao's body were released like lightning. Dazzling light poured down in torrents, and there was a strong fluctuation spreading out like a storm. Finally, the peerless murderous weapon was once again suppressed and immobilized. We can only succeed, not fail. Do it. Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and flew out. Then, he landed directly on the huge peerless weapon. Chi la la. Du Xiaofu quickly bit his index finger, and a few drops of pale golden blood dripped onto the peerless weapon, and then disappeared. As the blood dripped into the murderous weapon, Du Xiaofu immediately felt a strange connection with the murderous weapon. Foolish human, do you think I'm so easy to deal with? With your puny cultivation at the Pulse Spirit Realm, you won't be able to withstand a single blow. Laughable, truly laughable. Just as Du Xiaofu's figure landed on the murderous weapon and dripped his blood to recognize it as its master, a sinister and cold laughter came from within the weapon. Suddenly, mysterious runes spread out from the body of the peerless weapon. Just as Du Xiaofu was about to arrange a soul imprint to cultivate a new device spirit, a huge illusory image of a green dragon suddenly spread out from the peerless weapon, as if it was a real object. Roar! The azure dragon roared with unparalleled majesty. Its huge eyes locked onto Du Xiaofu, and an awe-inspiring pressure suddenly boiled, covering the sky and covering the earth, causing Du Xiaofu to tremble. The azure dragon's power was overwhelming, and it was not something that an ordinary person could resist. Just the dragon's roar alone was enough to destroy Du Xiaofu's soul. In an instant, Du Xiaofu was attacked by the huge azure dragon shadow. The profound qi in his body stagnated, and his soul also suffered a huge impact. He could not help but faint. Roar! The head of the azure dragon shadow roared, and a terrifying aura burst out from its mouth. After that, it directly enveloped Du Xiaofu, and wanted to swallow the fainted Du Xiaofu into its mouth. Walala! In a flash, a light golden talisman pattern flowed within the body of the fainted Du Xiaofu. In an instant, multicolored light flickered, and numerous light golden talisman patterns lined up and condensed on his back. A pair of glittering talisman wings spread out. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body. The talisman wings on his back flapped, and light overflowed and filled the air. It was as if a rock had spread its wings and soared into the sky. It was as if a real golden-winged rock had descended. All of a sudden, the azure dragon shadow sensed the aura of the golden-winged rock that suddenly erupted from Du Xiaofu's body. Its entire body trembled, and the huge shadow's eyes seemed to have sensed something. There was a faint hint of fear in them. Du Xiaofu stared at the huge azure dragon shadow. Just as he was about to faint from the pressure, he activated the rock descends to the 9 heavens. It carried the domineering will of the golden-winged rock clan, and resisted the huge pressure of the azure dragon shadow. How is this possible? Why aren't you a human? How can you be a beast? A surprised voice came from within the peerless murderous weapon. Rock descends to the 9 heavens, suppress. Du Xiaofu shouted loudly, and the talisman wings on his back flapped. They opened and closed, domineering and fierce. Golden multicolored light bloomed all over the sky, and the majestic light filled the air. The momentum was terrifying. It carried the domineering will of the golden-winged rock clan, and it directly swept towards the azure dragon shadow. All of a sudden, a domineering and terrifying aura surged from Du Xiaofu's body. It flapped its wings and swept across the sky, suppressing the azure dragon shadow with great force. Rumble! The golden-winged rock collided with the azure dragon, and a series of talisman lights shot out like gorgeous fireworks. They bloomed resplendently, and the energy swept across the sky. The terrifying azure dragon's shadow was also suppressed and destroyed by Du Xiaofu's rock descends to the 9 heavens. Roar! In just a short moment, the broken talisman of the azure dragon's shadow that had just been suppressed and destroyed was directly restored in an instant, and the complete azure dragon's shadow condensed again. Roar! Coo! At the same time, the tiger roared, the sparrow and the turtle cried. Beside the azure dragon's shadow, the white tiger shadow, the phoenix shadow, and the black tortoise shadow appeared. The 4 beast shadows roared, and the astonishing pressure became even more terrifying. Even with the protection of the golden-winged rock's aura, Du Xiaofu found it difficult to resist. And this might be because the weapon venerable was already suppressing the murderous weapon's soul, so the pressure of the 4 beast shadows had been greatly reduced. Otherwise, even with the protection of the golden-winged rock's aura, Du Xiaofu would not be able to resist this kind of aura. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, 4 dazzling golden rays of light fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, 4 golden mountains wrapped in mysterious runes crushed the azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, black tortoise and black tortoise phantoms. Roar, roar, under the suppression of the 4 mountains, the 4 golden talisman patterns roared and struggled, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not break free. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and looked over. He saw that the 4 mountains wrapped in mysterious golden talisman patterns were the 4 mountains separated from the 5 mountains above Du Xiaoyao's body. Although the 4 mountains were separated, the golden talisman patterns were connected. They seemed to be one, but they were not separated. They tightly suppressed the azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, and the black tortoise shadow. I'll suppress them. You go and do your thing as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm afraid I can't suppress them for long. Du Xiaoyao's voice came out. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's golden talisman wings disappeared. Then, he sat cross-legged on the murderous weapon and formed a handprint. His whole body was shrouded in a white light like a divine light. After a short time, a strand of rune-like energy suddenly swept out from between his eyebrows and spread into the murderous weapon. Du Xiaofu, my disciple, come in and set up the soul imprint to cultivate a new device spirit. The weapon master's voice came into Du Xiaofu's ears in a rather strange way. At this moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to have been connected with the murderous weapon, as if they had become one. All of a sudden, Du Xiaofu sensed that his mental power had appeared in a vast ominous space. Clatter! In the ominous space, the primordial spirit of his master, the weapon master, turned into a giant. His body was wrapped in dazzling talisman patterns, like chains of talisman patterns, which trapped a horrible celestial demon phantom like a prisoner. The celestial demon phantom was like a celestial demon, roaring ferociously as if it should not exist in this world. Its mighty aura was terrible, and its whole body was like a primordial spirit. Master, how should I set up the soul imprint to cultivate a new device spirit? Du Xiaofu asked. This is the murderous weapon space. The soul of the murderous weapon has been trapped by me. You set up the soul imprint here, and use your spiritual power to condense a new device spirit in 3 days. When the time comes to cultivate the device spirit to fight for the control of the murderous weapon, you still have a chance. During this period of time, I will use the primordial spirit forbidden secret technique to seal the soul of the ferocious weapon, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to trap the soul of the ferocious weapon for long. When I'm unable to seal the soul of the ferocious weapon, if the artifact spirit you nurtured is unable to defeat the soul of the ferocious weapon, then everything will repeat itself. The weapon master's voice came into Du Xiaofu's ears. He said, Xiaofu, my disciple, during this time, I have something important to ask you to do. It's related to my life. Although you are not strong, I have no one to rely on and no one to trust, so I can only ask you to do it. Brothers, forgive me for only being able to finish the second watch today. Tomorrow is the festival, so I rushed back to my hometown to celebrate with my family. Today, I was tired from traveling all day. I just got home and finished the second watch, so I can't finish the third watch today. Please forgive me. I also wish all my readers a happy Mid-Autumn Festival, a happy family, and good health. Chapter 343. Back then, when the news of me forging a peerless weapon spread, a good friend suddenly attacked me when I was weak. I had no choice but to abandon my physical body and enter the weapon with my primordial spirit and come to the dark forest. All these years, my primordial spirit can still feel that my physical body is intact. This is probably because he was afraid of failure and trapped my physical body as a hostage. Perhaps he also hoped that I could exchange a peerless divine weapon for my physical body. If you can obtain my physical body before I can no longer suppress the soul of the weapon, then I will have a chance to recover. Master, where is your physical body now? Du Xiaofu asked. The 7-star hall, more than 1,300 years ago. I am not sure about the current situation in the 7-star hall. The 7-star hall is very powerful and each has its own way of doing things. If the 7-star hall joins forces, it is enough to become one of the top forces in the Central Plains. The person who attacked me back then was the Lord of the Alioth Hall. If you have the chance, go to the Central Plains and settle down in the Migres Palace first. Wait for an opportunity to find my physical body. Although I was the Lord of the Migres Palace back then, time is limited so I can't tell you too much about the 7-star hall. You will naturally understand when the time comes. After you enter the Migres Palace, don't expose your relationship with me first, and don't easily trust anyone in the 7-star hall. However, no one has seen the heavenly palace of purple gold yet, so you don't have to be afraid of being exposed. If you really need help, you can go to the Lord of the Merak Palace, but don't trust him completely. You can't let your guard down. The 7-star hall is full of experts, so be careful. The voice of the venerable weapon continued to fall into Du Xiaofu's ears. I will seal the soul of the weapon with my primordial spirit now. You can begin to arrange the soul imprint and cultivate a new weapon spirit. Whoosh! As the venerable weapon's voice fell, the huge primordial spirit's hand seals condensed. The dazzling rune chains formed by the runes suddenly began to tighten and tighten, constantly tightening into the body of the terrifying fiend god phantom. Woo-woo, the fiend god body roared ferociously like a fiend god. Its mighty aura rippled with a terrifying fluctuation. It kept bursting with a violent, murderous aura that seemed to be able to corrode the rune chains set up by the revered artifact. You were refined by me. Don't be so arrogant in front of me. If you want to leave, I won't allow you to. With a shout, the huge primordial spirit of Weapon Master suddenly began to transform into a dazzling ray of light, like a divine ray descending from the heavens, and finally swept into the formation chains. Zizi, the strands of talisman markings were linked together like bolts of lightning, and they emanated dazzling radiance. In the end, they connected with each other and intersected in a crisscrossed manner as they evolved, and they were accompanied by a mysterious and taboo energy fluctuation. Boo-hoo, the phantoms of fiend gods roared without end, and they were peerlessly ferocious and monstrous. However, they were suppressed to the point of being unable to move under the fluctuations of that mysterious and taboo energy. The crisscrossed dazzling rune chains tightly imprisoned the phantoms of fiend gods. Finally, they converged into a rusty imperial suppression seal, and directly swept into the phantoms of fiend gods. You won't be able to suppress me for long. You won't be able to suppress me for long. It won't be long before I come out. The phantoms of fiend gods roared and struggled, and their eyes were filled with unwillingness and resistance. However, in the end, they were powerless to close their eyes. The terrifying and murderous aura on them disappeared, and everything began to calm down. Set up the soul imprint. Du Xiaofu came to his senses and immediately began to set up the soul imprint. He was ready to cultivate a new device spirit with his spiritual soul power. Although he did not know much about refining weapons, it was not too difficult. Du Xiaofu was no longer the foolish young master in the Stone City. In the following time, Du Xiaofu concentrated on setting up the soul imprint and condensing a new device spirit. During this process, Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless. Once he made a mistake, the consequences would be unimaginable. As time passed, the sealed land in the outside world became more and more lively. Many puppets, spirit weapons, and practitioner weapons appeared, causing a series of fights in the sealed land. Countless people died, but there were still more and more treasure hunters and adventurers who joined in regardless of the cost. However, no one had found the real revered weapon cave mansion. The entire sealed land had been dug 3 feet deep, but there was still no harvest. Many unfamiliar experts also entered the sealed land. Experts from several surrounding empires also continued to pour in. In the end, it was said that many Martial King realm experts of the Stone Dragon Empire also joined in. In the sealed land, there were many experts, and fierce battles between Martial King realm experts occurred from time to time. The Martial King realm experts' attacks were earth-shattering, and earth-shattering, which was amazing. For those who did not obtain any treasures, it was not a waste to have the opportunity to see a battle between Martial King realm experts. 3 days later, in the murderous weapon space, a baby-sized rune imprint was connected to the entire space. Its aura fluctuated, as if it was also awakening its life essence. The device spirit has been born. Great success. The peerless murderous weapon now belongs to you. The spirit of the murderous weapon has been suppressed by me, and its power is not as strong as before. But remember not to activate it rashly, so as to avoid affecting the seal and awakening the spirit of the murderous weapon in advance. Although the spirit of the murderous weapon has been suppressed, the remaining power of the weapon is still there. This is very troublesome, but I see that your cultivation method seems to be related to the golden-winged rocks. The golden-winged rocks are extraordinary, and the real rocks are divine creatures. So, you can temporarily carry the murderous weapon with you, and use the aura of the golden-winged rocks to suppress the remaining power. When the new device spirit is stabilized, you can put it into the celestial watchtower and cultivate the device spirit to suppress the spirit of the murderous weapon. At this moment, the voice of the venerable weapon sounded in Du Xiaofu's ears again. Although you are now my disciple, I can't give you too much. I can only give you what I have learned in my life, and I can't teach you personally. In the end, how much you can comprehend depends on your own luck and talent. As for the purple gold celestial watchtower, whether you get a blessing or a misfortune depends on your own luck. If there is a day when we meet again, we will talk again. As the voice fell, a dazzling light flashed, like thunder, accompanied by a shocking energy fluctuation, suddenly rushed into Du Xiaofu's mind. Walala! As Du Xiaofu's soul trembled, the dazzling light of energy shattered into pieces inch by inch. Waves of powerful energy rushed into his mind, causing his soul to swell, and he almost lost consciousness. While he was in a daze, a huge amount of information suddenly appeared in Du Xiaofu's mind. This information was all related to refining weapons, refining various puppets, various spiritual weapons, and even a lot of information about talisman formations. A large amount of information bloomed in Du Xiaofu's mind like dazzling runes. In the end, it seemed to have completely integrated into Du Xiaofu's mind, causing an unprecedented swelling pain in Du Xiaofu's mind, as if his mind was about to explode. This information was branded in his mind and could not be removed, becoming a part of Du Xiaofu's mind. Several hours later, on top of the peerless weapon, Du Xiaoyao's original body disappeared. The phantoms of the azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, black tortoise, and black tortoise all disappeared. Only Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on top of the enormous peerless weapon floating horizontally. His entire body was enveloped in dazzling white divine light. Phew! After a while, the white light around Du Xiaofu's body disappeared. After exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, he opened his eyes with a deep look. Withdraw! His body jumped down from the purple gold celestial watchtower. With a slight thought, the huge purple gold celestial watchtower immediately shrank and then returned to its original size, falling in front of Du Xiaofu. Chapter 344. Wine. The purple gold heavenly tower stood in front of Du Xiaofu. It was half the height of Du Xiaofu and emitted a thunderous sound. The ferocious aura was nowhere to be seen. All that was left was an extremely cool broadsword. The nimble curve of the sword was natural. The purple gold heavenly tower was like a tiger bone and a dragon bone. It was like a phoenix facing the sun or a divine turtle crouching down. Anyone who saw it would feel their heart race. A peerless divine weapon, a peerless sword. Du Xiaofu reached out and held the peerless divine weapon in front of him. Even though the soul of the murderous weapon had been suppressed, it still made people palpitate with excitement. The aura that faintly spread out from the sword was definitely not something that an ordinary practitioner weapon could compare with. So heavy. Just as Du Xiaofu held the purple gold heavenly tower, it felt as if it weighed thousands of kilograms and fell down. Du Xiaofu didn't pay attention to the exalted god and the purple gold heavenly tower fell to the ground. Ka. When the sword struck the rock, the entire rock instantly shattered into pieces. Then, the sword stabbed into the hard rock ground, causing the entire ground to tremble with a loud rumble. What an extraordinary divine weapon. Du Xiaoyao's little macaque body jumped onto Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Her pale golden eyes looked at the purple gold heavenly palace in surprise. Are you okay? Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoyao, and his expression suddenly changed quite a bit. At this moment, Du Xiaoyao's face was pale, and her aura was extremely weak. She seemed extremely dispirited. I used all my strength to suppress this weapon. I used up a lot of energy, but it's not a big deal. I just need some time to recover. Du Xiaoyao looked around and then said to Du Xiaofu, I feel like this space is about to collapse. I'll send you out first. It was quiet in the valley. Hua Fankong paced back and forth, looking at the corpses not far away. These corpses belonged to many adventurers and treasure hunters who had entered the sealed land during the past 3 days. They were mercilessly killed by Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong. Why haven't they come out yet? Did something happen? Hua Fankong paced back and forth and finally walked behind Yi Piaoling. His gaze fell on the serene python in Yi Piaoling's hand. The shocking aura was spreading. It was definitely not an ordinary treasure. Yi Piaoling sat cross-legged on a rock and gently wiped the serene python. She didn't look back and said, if you want to leave, you can leave anytime. I didn't mean that. Since I have decided to follow you, I won't leave first. I will. Hua Fankong. I'm a man of my word. Hua Fankong patted his chest and said. As the leader of a gang, he was definitely famous in the dark forest. However, he was extremely respectful in front of Yi Piaoling. On one hand, it was because the black-robed youth had saved his life twice. On the other hand, Hua Fankong was not stupid. He knew that both Yi Piaoling and Du Xiaofu were not simple. Although they were young, they were stronger than him. In this special period, he would not be at a disadvantage if he followed them. Just as Hua Fankong's voice trailed off, ripples suddenly appeared on the stone wall. Next, a golden light spread out and the silhouette of a 5-fingered mountain appeared before the two of them. I'm very weak right now. Plus, I swallowed a talisman weapon and many other things. I need some time to recover. Don't disturb me. As Du Xiaoyao's voice fell, at the same time the illusion of the 5 Fingers Mountain dissipated, it transformed into the palm-sized 5 Fingers Mountain, and then directly shot into Du Xiaofu's chest and disappeared. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared clearly in front of Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong immediately looked behind Du Xiaofu. At this moment, on Du Xiaofu's back, there was a long broadsword wrapped in a piece of purple robe cloth. Even the sword hilt was tightly wrapped. In the end, it was tied into a knot and carried on his back. What are you carrying? It looks heavy. Yi Piaoling glanced at the broadsword wrapped on Du Xiaofu's back and asked curiously. A sword. It's not an ordinary sword. It's not bad for body training. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. His master, the weapon revered, said that it was not enough for him to put the heavenly palace of purple gold into the heavenly palace of purple gold for the time being. He was afraid that the soul of the murderous weapon would steal his qi and break the seal. He also needed to use the aura of the golden rock to suppress the murderous weapon's remaining power. Therefore, he could only carry the heavenly palace of purple gold on his back. In order to avoid attracting attention, Du Xiaofu finally tore apart the two purple robes in his qianquan bag. Then, he wrapped the heavenly palace of purple gold tightly and carried it on his back. However, the weight of the heavenly palace of purple gold was not ordinary. An ordinary meridian spirit realm cultivator might not be able to carry it. Du Xiaofu had a hard time carrying the heavenly palace of purple gold, so he had to treat it as body training. What's going on inside? Yi Piaoling heard and did not ask any more questions. Yes, what's going on inside? Are there any treasures? Is it the weapon revered cave abode? Hua Fankong immediately came up and looked at Du Xiaofu expectantly. It's not the weapon revered cave abode. There are no treasures either. Du Xiaofu looked at Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong and said, I only got the sword on my back. It's both a blessing and a curse. I almost lost my life inside. It's good that you're fine. Yi Piaoling's expression did not change much. She was still quite calm. Only one sword. Hua Fankong was a little disappointed when he heard this. Originally, he thought that if there were really treasures inside, he might be able to get a share. At that time, this trip would not be in vain. This sword is extraordinary, but I don't know how to split it. I'll make it up to you when I have the chance. Du Xiaofu looked at Yi Piaoling and said. This time, not only did he get the peerless heavenly palace of purple gold, but he was also accepted as a disciple by the weapon-revered cave abode. This was a great opportunity. Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong had been waiting outside. Naturally, Du Xiaofu felt that he should compensate them. However, the heavenly palace of purple gold was inseparable from the weapon-revered cave abode. It's nothing. It's not important. A rare smile appeared on Yi Piaoling's cold face. She waved the serene python in her hand and said, You only got a sword. I also have a serene python. I'm fine with it. I said that I'll just follow you guys. The treasures are not important. Hua Fankong immediately said, appearing very magnanimous. We'll talk about this later. Right now, let's leave this place first. I'm afraid that something will happen soon. Du Xiaofu could feel the space behind him. The four directions heaven ferocious seal that his master had set up was about to collapse. When that happened, all the experts would be attracted over. Hence, it was better to leave first. At this time, only Du Xiaofu knew that the real treasure was in his hands. Others came to find the treasure, so there was no need for him to stay. He didn't want to run into unnecessary trouble. Whoosh whoosh, after a while, the three of them flew into the sky and disappeared in a flash. Rumble. About an hour after Du Xiaofu and the other two left, the heavenly palace of purple gold in the deep valley began to collapse and explode. Then, it completely revealed itself. Another seal has appeared. There must be a treasure coming out. The real weapon revered cave abode must have appeared. Let's go and get the treasure. Suddenly, countless figures flew out of the sealed area. All the experts felt the fluctuations from the seal's explosion and immediately rushed out. At this time, Du Xiaofu, Yi Piaoling, and Hua Fankong were already far away from the place where the seal exploded. Where are we going now? In the messy valley, Hua Fankong asked Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling. Du Xiaofu also stopped. He looked at Yi Piaoling and said, What about you? Where do you plan to go? I have nowhere to go. I want to find the Medicine King. It's the same wherever I go. Yi Piaoling looked at Du Xiaofu and said, what about you? Where do you plan to go? I'm going back to Tianwu Academy. Du Xiaofu calculated that it was about time. Now that the entire dark forest's attention was on the weapon-revered cave abode, no one would pay attention to him or the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. Therefore, it was time for him to return to the academy. He didn't want Ouyang Shuang and the little tiger to worry about him. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu looked at Hua Fankong and took out his Qiankuan bag. After rummaging through his Qiankuan bag for a while, he took out a lot of things and put them into another Qiankuan bag. Then, he threw it to Hua Fankong. This is my Qiankuan bag. It seems that there are many more things in it. Hua Fankong opened the Qiankuan bag and scanned it with his mind. He was pleasantly surprised. The items in this Qiankuan bag were the items in his Qiankuan bag. Although some of the items in the bag were no longer there, they were much more valuable than before. Du Xiaofu said to Hua Fankong, I'll give you the things in this Qiankuan bag. All good things must come to an end. You don't have to follow us anymore. This, Hua Fankong looked at the Qiankuan bag in his hand, then looked at Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly looked up. Whoosh whoosh, in the air, a pitch-black eagle demon beast flapped its wings. Its aura wasn't weak, and the airflow rippled as it flapped its wings. A spiritual pulse realm dark eagle. It's a rare mount in the Black Fiend sect. Those who can ride it are at least elders of the Black Mountain sect. Hua Fankong looked at the dark eagle in the air and his expression changed slightly. He immediately put away the Qiankuan bag in his hand. Black Fiend sect. Du Xiaofu's eyes had already landed on the pitch-black body of the black underworld demon eagle. His eyes were even faster than Hua Fankong's. For Du Xiaofu, the three words Black Fiend sect definitely had an extremely special meaning. I've searched high and low for it, only to find it by chance. Hee, looks like my luck is pretty good. No one can save you today. Whoosh whoosh, as a sinister sneer sounded out, 5 figures landed one after another on the back of the dark eagle. Waves of astonishing baleful aura swept out as cold and gloomy gazes suddenly landed on Du Xiaofu's body. Amongst the 5 was a young man in black clothes. He looked to be around 25 or 26 years old. His expression was gloomy and his gaze was sinister. As he looked at Du Xiaofu, a cold sneer appeared from the corners of his mouth. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the young man in black. Soon after, a smile appeared from the corners of his mouth as well. However, a sinister glint flashed across his clear eyes as he softly muttered, enemies truly meet on a narrow road. Once again, I apologize and wish all readers a happy Mid-Autumn Festival. Chapter 345. Du Xiaofu naturally recognized the black-clothed youth. It was the young master of the Black Fiend sect, Shui Yunming, whom he had interacted with several times before. Behind Shui Yunming, Du Xiaofu's gaze darkened slightly as it landed on a plain-robed old man in his 60s. The old man's body landed on the ground, somewhat like a stiff statue. His face was red, and the veins on his temples swelled like beans. The aura around him caused the space to solidify, and a scorching aura spread out from his body. Enemies really do meet on a narrow road. Du Xiaofu looked at the plain-robed old man in his 60s, and a murderous intent spread out from the depths of his eyes. Du Xiaofu naturally would not forget this old man. Back then in the dark forest, he had almost died at the hands of this person. If not for the sudden appearance of the Medicine King, one could imagine his own fate. Behind Shui Yunming and the plain-robed old man, there was a burly man and 2 other old men. Du Xiaofu had seen these 3 people before. They were the people who had followed Shui Yunming in the Mu family's trading company, and were also at the initial stage of the martial marquis realm. Of the 5 people, other than Shui Yunming, the remaining 4 were all at the martial marquis realm. The plain-robed old man in his 60s was still at the mysterious stage of the martial marquis realm. The strength of this group of 5 could be said to be extremely strong. As the 5 people landed, the 4 martial marquis auras locked onto Du Xiaofu's body. The auras were sealed, and the space around Du Xiaofu almost solidified. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu had even felt the aura of the soul of the peerless murderous weapon. These martial marquis auras were naturally nothing to Du Xiaofu. It's the Black Fiend Sect's young sect master, Shui Yunming, and the second elder. They don't seem to have good intentions. Hua Fankong's expression changed drastically. Shui Yunming glanced at Hua Fankong and Yi Piaoling. Then, he sneered at Du Xiaofu and said, "Brat, it's time for you to pay the price. Hand over the treasure and I'll be merciful and leave your corpse intact. How about it? Young sect leader Shui, is there some misunderstanding between you two?" Even though Shui Yunming's strength was not at the martial marquis realm, he was the young master of the Black Fiend sect and had a martial king realm expert as his father. With the dark forest, Hua Fankong naturally did not dare to offend him. Seeing the hostility between Shui Yunming and Du Xiaofu, Hua Fankong knew that even though Tianwu Academy was strong, the Black Fiend sect was the most terrifying in the dark forest. Furthermore, the Black Fiend sect's sect leader, the martial king realm Shui Tianqiu, was nearby. Therefore, Hua Fankong's apologetic smile was out of consideration for Du Xiaofu. "Hua Fankong, are you in cahoots with Tianwu Academy? Who do you think you are? It's not up to you to interfere in this matter. Otherwise, I'll annihilate your Black Fiend gang." Shui Yunming glanced at Hua Fankong indifferently. He did not place Hua Fankong in his eyes at all and directly scolded him. His gaze was still coldly fixed on Du Xiaofu. Hearing this, Hua Fankong's face instantly turned ugly. As a martial marquis, being scolded by a pulse spirit realm expert, one could imagine the anger in his heart. However, Hua Fankong could not do anything at this moment. Not to mention the entire Black Fiend sect, he could not even fight against these few people from the Black Fiend sect. "Sect Master Hua, you're right. I have some misunderstanding with young Sect Master Shui." Just as Hua Fankong's face turned ugly, the sneer on Du Xiaofu's face turned into a smile. He patted Hua Fankong's shoulder and took a step forward. Looking at Shui Yunming, he said, "I failed to recognize Mount Tai and did not know that you were the Black Fiend sect's young sect master. I hope that young sect master can forgive me for offending you in the past. Here is the mysterious spirit heavenly vine. I'll return it to young sect master first. The treasure from before will also be returned to young sect master." After speaking, Du Xiaofu took out a Qianquan bag from his chest and walked towards Shui Yunming with a smile on his face. Seeing Du Xiaofu's sudden change, the expressions of the Black Fiend sect members changed. Even Shui Yunming was puzzled. "Yunming, be careful." The eyes of the plain-robed elder, who looked to be in his 60s, were filled with vigilance. His aura was tightly locked onto Du Xiaofu. He was afraid that once Du Xiaofu's aura fluctuated, he would immediately attack without hesitation. Shui Yunming stared at Du Xiaofu, his face twitching slightly as he thought to himself, "There are 4 martial lord experts by my side, why would I be afraid of this brat alone? I'm afraid that this brat knows my identity. Now that I've seen 4 martial lord experts, I'm truly intimidated." Humph. Shui Yunming slightly snorted from his throat. He looked straight at Du Xiaofu and said arrogantly, "Stop right there. Just throw the Qianquan bag over. If you honestly hand over the treasure, this young master will definitely leave your corpse intact. Maybe I'll just cripple your cultivation base. It's not impossible to keep your lowly life." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu did not say anything. With a smile in his eyes, he directly threw the Qianquan bag in his hand to Shui Yunming. Shui Yunming caught the Qianquan bag. The last trace of doubt in his eyes disappeared. It seemed that the kid was truly afraid and wanted to beg for mercy. Even the surrounding 4 martial marquee experts relaxed their vigilance. At least you know your place. Shui Yunming caught the Qianquan bag. He slightly raised his head and looked at Du Xiaofu with a sneer. Then, he wanted to open the Qianquan bag to see if it really contained the mysterious spirit heavenly vine. Let me help you open it. Otherwise, you won't be able to open this Qianquan bag. Suddenly, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's voice suddenly appeared beside Shui Yunming's ear. His figure had unknowingly appeared in front of Shui Yunming in an incomparably strange manner. He slightly extended his hand, but it was as fast as lightning. Instantly, he grabbed towards Shui Yunming's hand that was holding the Qianquan bag. All of this happened too quickly, so fast that it was unimaginable. Even the martial marquis did not have time to discover it. Yunming, be careful. Young sect leader, be careful. That brat is tricking you. In an instant, several voices shouted out in panic. 4 figures pounced towards Du Xiaofu at the same time. Brat, scram! Shui Yunming also shouted loudly. He was shocked that Du Xiaofu had appeared in front of him. At the same time, his face also changed as he retreated in panic. Chi! However, it was already too late. Du Xiaofu extended his hand and with a speed that Shui Yunming could not dodge, he directly grabbed onto Shui Yunming's wrist that was holding onto the Qianquan bag. Within his eyes, a faint golden light flickered. It was sharp and cold, and a wave of faint golden profound qi immediately spread out. Crack! The sound of bones breaking suddenly rang out. One of Shui Yunming's arms was directly broken by Du Xiaofu. Ah! A miserable wail rang out. Shui Yunming's mouth was accompanied by blood. His face was hideous from the intense pain as blood spurted out from his broken arm. Chi 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 chi. The 4 martial marquis realms pounced towards Du Xiaofu. When they reached Shui Yunming's side, Du Xiaofu's figure had already left behind an afterimage and disappeared. I gave it to you, but you couldn't hold on to it. You can't blame me. Du Xiaofu's figure stopped not far away. He took out the Qianquan bag from Shui Yunming's broken arm and put it away disapprovingly. Bam! Looking at Shui Yunming who was screaming miserably, the corner of Du Xiaofu's mouth curled up into a cold arc. With a wave of his hand, a faint golden light surged out and instantly shattered Shui Yunming's broken arm into a bloody mist. Even if he wanted to reconnect it, he would not be able to do so. Hurry up and kill him. Kill that bastard for me. Kill him. Shui Yunming screamed and roared. His expression was filled with resentment and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Little bastard, back then someone saved you. Now no one can save you. This old man will make you beg for death. The 60-year-old white-robed elder's furious voice came out of his mouth. His eyelids were thin. His young sect master's arm had been cut off. This was simply a slap to his old face. Boom! The mysterious aura of the 60-year-old white-robed elder of the martial marquis realm erupted. Runes flickered and he directly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. His eyes were filled with coldness and his blazing aura fluctuated like a storm. A claw print grabbed Du Xiaofu's shoulder like an eagle catching a chick. Swish! The terrifying claw print almost distorted the space. The invisible terrifying aura of the 60-year-old elder had already frozen the space at the same time. It directly crushed Du Xiaofu, causing the surrounding space to ripple endlessly. A large amount of gravel shot into the sky. Chi! In a short moment, such a terrifying claw print directly landed on Du Xiaofu's shoulder, causing a terrifying blazing aura to erupt. But immediately after, the terrifying palm print that landed on Du Xiaofu's shoulder was unable to advance even half an inch. For some reason, the expression of the 60-year-old white-robed elder suddenly changed. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. The martial marquis realm is mysterious. I am no longer the same as before. Die. Du Xiaofu made his move. With a wave of his hand, it was like a golden bolt of lightning, but also like a vast expanse of golden light that exploded like a dazzling sun. A tyrannical and fierce aura erupted like a volcano, accompanied by a monstrous killing intent that swept through the sky and shook the sky. Boom! A low muffled sound resounded like muffled thunder. Du Xiaofu's fist directly landed on the lower abdomen of the 60-year-old white-robed elder. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, fear and shock spread throughout the eyes of the 60-year-old white-robed elder. Palpitations climbed out from the depths of his soul. Bang! 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 The body of the 60-year-old white-robed elder began to explode from within his body, and then his entire body turned into a bloody mist. An expert at the mysterious level of the martial marquis realm, who was also a famous figure in the entire dark forest. In the blink of an eye, he was smashed into a bloody mist by Du Xiaofu's fist. Huff, huff, this sudden change caused the remaining 3 martial marquis realm cultivators of the Black Fiend sect to be dumbstruck and their bodies to tremble violently. Shui Yunming, who was screaming miserably, had a face that was distorted from the intense pain. At this moment, his face froze as shock crawled into his eyes. Today, I'll collect some interest again. Du Xiaofu's figure moved, the profound qi beneath his feet surged, his figure drifted like a god, unfathomable like a ghost, his aura was like a peerless beast, crushing everything, his speed was as fast as lightning, swift and unparalleled. Qi. Du Xiaofu appeared in front of the Black Fiend sect's martial marquis realm old man and punched out. His fist was wrapped in golden talisman runes, causing the Black Fiend sect's old man's eyes to be filled with shock, and he hurriedly condensed a fist to collide with it. Bam! A muffled sound rang out as the 2 fists collided. The Black Fiend sect's martial marquis realm old man, starting from his fist, his flesh and bones were completely shattered. Puchi. Blood immediately spat out from the latter's mouth along with his shattered internal organs. With a single punch, his internal organs were directly shattered by Du Xiaofu. Then, his body flew horizontally, like a kite with its string cut, fiercely flying into the distance, never to get up again. All of you, go to hell. Before the old man's body landed on the ground, Du Xiaofu's figure had already appeared between the large man and the old man who had just ascended to the martial marquis stage. Completely ignoring the 2 martial marquis realm cultivators, Du Xiaofu's hands stretched out like an eagle pouncing on its prey. Golden light exploded, like a giant rock flapping its wings, a domineering will crushed the space, causing the 2 martial marquis realm cultivators' souls to throb and their bodies to tremble violently. Du Xiaofu's hands each landed on the shoulders of the 2 martial marquis realm cultivators, crushing their pitiful defenses. Opening his arms wide, he lifted their bodies and heavily smashed them together. Bang bang! A muffled explosion rang out. The 2 martial marquis realm experts, at this moment, seemed so powerless in Du Xiaofu's hands. The 2 people's bodies were like 2 stone slabs, directly smashing into each other. Blood spurted out, and the bones in their bodies continuously cracked into powder. Their vitality dissipated, and in the end, they were softly thrown to the ground by Du Xiaofu. The 3 martial marquis realm cultivators, in less than 2 breaths of time, were forcefully killed by Du Xiaofu. It was as if there was nothing, and it was unmatched. A few days ago, little Yu had a few chapters that were not enough for 3,000 words. Yesterday, there was a large chapter, and with this large chapter, little Yu will make up for it. In addition, little Yu will return tomorrow. The day after tomorrow, on Wednesday, there will be a big explosion. I also ask for the support of my brothers. Chapter 346. Hua Fankong's jaw hung open so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed inside. Even though he was well aware of Du Xiaofu's extraordinariness and ferocity, seeing Du Xiaofu effortlessly slaughter for martial marquis from the Black Fiend sect while panting, the shock brought about by this scene was even more unparalleled. In the entire dark forest, how many people would dare to make a move against the Black Fiend sect? And now, not only had Du Xiaofu made a move, he had also directly killed 4 martial marquis experts from the Black Fiend sect. This is going to be big trouble. Hua Fankong's expression was ugly, but he could only reveal a bitter smile. Xue Yunming was shocked. As he stared at Du Xiaofu, his expression had changed from its original sinister to the current one of fear and shock. 4 martial marquis experts had actually been instantly killed by Du Xiaofu. Only now did Xue Yunming know that in the short span of a few months, the purple-robed youth before him had become who knows how many times more terrifying than before. His cultivation speed was practically soaring like a flying sword. After killing 4 martial marquis, Du Xiaofu was unconcerned. Step by step, he walked towards the fearful and shocked Xue Yunming. Don't come over. What do you want to do? If you dare touch me, the entire Black Fiend sect will definitely not let you off. As he watched Du Xiaofu approach step by step, Xue Yunming retreated step by step. Even though the acupuncture points on his arm had been sealed to stop the bleeding, the intense pain still existed. However, in the face of Du Xiaofu's approaching step by step, even the intense pain was temporarily forgotten. There was only deep fear in his eyes as he continuously retreated step by step. Didn't you want to kill me? Why, the dignified junior sect leader of the Black Fiend sect, are you afraid now? Du Xiaofu spoke in an indifferent voice. He took a few steps forward and his body strangely appeared in front of Xue Yunming. Chilling intent shot out from both of his eyes. Under the piercingly cold and sharp gaze, Xue Yunming's body trembled. Don't kill me, I don't want the treasure. I will tell my father that from now on, the grudge between you and my Black Fiend sect will be written off. If you kill me, my Black Fiend sect will definitely not let you off. My father is nearby, if you kill me, you won't be able to escape. Xue Yunming retreated step by step. At this moment, there was no longer the arrogant appearance of the dignified junior sect leader of the Black Fiend sect. In the face of absolute power, he could only wagging his tail and begging for mercy, while carrying unwillingness and resentment and powerless threats. You Black Fiend sect's junior Xue, use Black Fiend sect Xue's you. As for your father, Xue Tianqiu, he should have gone to snatch the treasure. Even if he knows that you're dead, he won't be able to rush back in time. What can he do to me? Du Xiaofu sneered as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Looking at Xue Yunming, it was as though a cat was looking at a mouse. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words and feeling the chilling intent emanating from Du Xiaofu's body, Xue Tianqiu couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. His bloodied lips trembled as he stared at Du Xiaofu and said, "You can't kill me. If you kill me, even if you're a student of Tianwu Academy, you won't be able to escape. The Black Fiend sect will definitely not let Tianwu Academy off. Do you think that the Black Fiend sect has the guts to go to Tianwu Academy? You're truly foolish to act like a spoiled brat. So what if I kill you today?" When Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he waved his hand and a palm print landed on Xue Yunming's lower abdomen. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded as a golden symbol flashed across Du Xiaofu's palm. Puchi, even though it was a light palm strike, Xue Yunming's body was sent flying. Blood flowed from his mouth as he crashed onto the ground. His body twitched a few times before his eyes were filled with reluctance and despair. Finally, his eyes turned ashen and he couldn't be any more dead. Someone killed Xue Yunming and the second elder of the Black Fiend sect. This is a provocation to the Black Fiend sect. Isn't that purple-robed fellow Du Xiaofu from Tianwu Academy? A few days ago, he even killed a manor head from the Tianhu Empire. He killed a few martial marquis experts from the Black Fiend sect. This time, the Black Fiend sect is doomed. It seems like the people from Tianwu Academy aren't to be trifled with. Unknowingly, many spectators had gathered in the air. When they saw the martial marquis experts from the Black Fiend sect being killed in an instant, they didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly left. Du Xiaofu ignored the spectators and hurriedly took out the Qinkuan pouches from the corpses. With a flash, he appeared beside Yi Piaoling and Hua Fankong. He looked at Yi Piaoling and said, "It seems like we have to leave as soon as possible. The sect master of the Black Fiend sect seems to be a martial king. Since you killed his son, you will naturally be in trouble this time." Yi Piaoling said softly. Her expression didn't change and she didn't take it to heart. "Sigh, this is really troublesome. So many people saw it. I'm afraid that Xue Tianqiu will blame me for the death of his son." Hua Fankong smiled helplessly. There were many spectators and there were definitely people who knew him. Xue Tianqiu's son was dead. Regardless of whether he could find Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling, he was now with Du Xiaofu. When the time comes, Xue Tianqiu would naturally not let him go. Du Xiaofu looked at Hua Fankong and his gaze flickered. He suddenly said, "It seems like you are not stupid. Now, there are only two paths in front of you. Go by yourself or go with me." Hua Fankong raised his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. He said, "Of course I will go with you. Xue Yunming is dead and Xue Tianqiu will definitely not let me go. I'm afraid that the Black Fiend sect will no longer have a foothold in the Dark City. Forget it, the Black Fiend sect only exists in name anyway. There are not many people who can display their strength. You can go with me, but there is a condition. Otherwise, you will go by yourself." Du Xiaofu looked at Hua Fankong seriously. "What do you mean?" Hua Fankong looked at Du Xiaofu's serious face and asked doubtfully. Du Xiaofu stood with his hands behind his back. He said, "Come with me and join the World Society. Otherwise, you will leave by yourself." Hua Fankong's gaze turned serious. He asked Du Xiaofu, "What is the World Society? I don't think I have heard of it." "You have heard of it now. The World Society was established not long ago. I am the president. If you join the World Society, you will be the first person in the Dark Forest to join the World Society." Du Xiaofu looked at Hua Fankong and said, "You can also choose not to join. Please do as you wish." "I understand. You killed Xue Yunming on purpose." Hearing this, Hua Fankong's eyes slightly moved. He suddenly thought that this purple-robed youth must have killed Xue Yunming on purpose. Then, he would have no choice but to follow him. "You think too much. With your strength, there is no need for me to make arrangements. I killed Xue Yunming to collect interest on the debt between me and the Black Fiend sect. You were dragged in because of your bad luck. Now, it is up to you whether you want to join the World Society or not." Whoosh whoosh, after Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he signaled Yi Piaoling with his eyes. The two of them immediately flew away. After killing Xue Yunming, the Black Fiend sect's Xue Tianqiu was nearby. This was definitely not a place to stay for long. Wanting Hua Fankong to join the World Society wasn't Du Xiaofu's sudden idea. Ever since he talked to Yi Piaoling about the outside world, Du Xiaofu had a lot of thoughts. In a world where the strong were respected, the fist was the absolute truth. The forces around him were equally important. Originally, Du Xiaofu didn't care too much about the World Society. The reason why he became the World Society's president was because of his second brother, Du Yunlong. But now, Du Xiaofu had a lot of new opinions about the World Society. After all, two hands were no match for four fists. If he could strengthen the World Society, then one day, the World Society would be able to stand tall in the Empire and the entire Central region. At that time, it would be much easier for him to do whatever he wanted. As for Hua Fankong, he was a martial lord and could be considered one of the local tyrants of the Dark City. He wasn't a kind person, but he was quite loyal. He wasn't a bad person and was also quite smart. He was a good candidate that Du Xiaofu thought could be recruited into the World Society. Therefore, he was tempted to recruit him. On the messy ground, Hua Fankong looked at the corpses of the Black Fiend sects Shui Yunming and the others on the ground. You seem to have slowed down a lot. In the air, two figures flashed. Yi Piaoling could clearly feel Du Xiaofu's speed. It was much slower than when they came to the sealed land a few days ago. The sword on my back is too heavy. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. The purple-gold heavenly tower on his back was extraordinarily heavy. It greatly affected his speed. It was as if he was carrying 1,000 kilograms. Do you really have a world society? Yi Piaoling asked. Yes, I do. I'm afraid it's not enough for you. Are you interested? Du Xiaofu also suddenly looked at Yi Piaoling with anticipation in his eyes. Even if I'm interested, I'm afraid I don't have much time left. Yi Piaoling said softly. He had the red fiend palm and couldn't hold on for much longer. Don't worry. We'll definitely find the king of medicine. Even if we can't find him, we can try other methods. There's always a way out. Du Xiaofu said. Yi Piaoling smiled and said, if I don't die, I will definitely try to join the world society. I really want to know what it will be like in 10 or 20 years with such a ferocious and perverted person like you. It's a deal. I'll always reserve the position of the world society for you. Du Xiaofu smiled and said. All right. Yi Piaoling smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, that guy seems to be following us. He seems to have no other choice. Du Xiaofu seemed to have a well-thought-out plan. His body shook and Xian Qi gushed out from his body, forming a pale golden whirlpool in the air. He stopped in the air and turned around to look at a flowing light that was rapidly approaching him. A slight smile appeared on his face. There was no surprise in his eyes. Thank you, Commander Yi Piaoling. Thank you, Commander Yi. Thank you. Chapter 347. Whoosh! Hua Fankong's figure retracted, and his figure appeared before Du Xiaofu. He looked at Yi Piaoling and Du Xiaofu, and finally at Du Xiaofu. His eyes narrowed as he said, I have many places to go. Why should I join the world society? From now on, I'm afraid none of the factions in the Dark Forest will dare to recruit you, including the Mu Clan Fort, the Thousand Clouds Pavilion, and the Twin Hatred Sect. So, you have to be clear that I'm not the one begging you to join the world society. You're the one begging me to join the world society. Of course, I'm also very happy to have you join the world society. Du Xiaofu looked at Hua Fankong, his gaze wavering slightly as he said, You're a martial lord, the leader of the Black Fiend sect. Now you're even wary of a spoiled brat like Shui Yunming. Are you really willing to continue like this? Join the world society, and within 5 years, I can guarantee that within 5 years, you won't need to fear anyone in the entire Dark Forest. Because behind you will be a rising world society. As he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's eyes shone with a faint golden light. These words were not only directed at Hua Fankong, but also at himself. Hearing this, Hua Fankong's eyes lowered slightly as he pondered. He raised his head again to look at Du Xiaofu and said, All right, I'll join. However, my Black Fiend sect still has some trustworthy old subordinates. Those brothers have followed me for a long time, and each of them has gone through fire and water with me. If they were to suffer an unexpected calamity because of me, I would feel uneasy. So I want to bring them along, while the Black Fiend sect has not launched a large-scale search for us. I still have some time now. Of course, no problem. Du Xiaofu nodded. He wanted to expand the world society, and now was the time to recruit. Having Hua Fankong's trusted old subordinates joining would naturally be the best. Then where will we rendezvous at that time? The entire Dark Forest is under the influence of the one pavilion, one castle, and 2 sects. I believe that the current world society shouldn't have a foothold in the Dark Forest yet. Hua Fankong said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu was also rather embarrassed when he heard this. The current world society indeed did not have any territory in the dark forest. They did not even have a place to stay. This was rather unsightly. After pondering for a moment, Du Xiaofu asked Hua Fankong, in your opinion, if the world society wants to establish themselves in the dark forest, where should they go first? Chaos Demon City. Hua Fankong said without hesitation, Chaos Demon City. If the world society wants to establish themselves in the dark forest, only Chaos Demon City can temporarily work. We still have to avoid the Black Fiend sect, so we can only go to Chaos Demon City first. Firstly, it's relatively far from the Black Fiend sect. Secondly, even the one pavilion, one fort, and two sects wouldn't dare rashly enter Chaos Demon City. It's the most suitable place for us. Alright, let's go to Chaos Demon City then. Du Xiaofu nodded. Hua Fankong was a local in the dark forest. Naturally, he was the most familiar with everything in the dark forest. I'm not done yet. It's also extremely risky for us to go to Chaos Demon City. Chaos Demon City is not an ordinary place. Otherwise, the one pavilion, one fort, and two sects wouldn't let Chaos Demon City go so easily. Hua Fankong looked at Du Xiaofu with a serious expression. He said seriously, most people think that the most chaotic place in the entire dark forest is the dark forest. In fact, other than the dark forest, the most chaotic place is Chaos Demon City. Chaos Demon City is not big, and there aren't many interests involved. Usually, not many people pass by. Therefore, the four great forces don't dare to enter Chaos Demon City. In addition, there aren't many benefits, so they haven't entered Chaos Demon City. Why don't the four great forces dare to enter Chaos Demon City? Du Xiaofu asked curiously. Because there are many demonic beasts in the Chaos Demon City. These demonic beasts are all extremely ferocious existences. Even the four great powers don't dare to offend them easily. If we go to the Chaos Demon City, we can only wait patiently. Those demonic beasts can allow people to stay in the Chaos Demon City, but they definitely won't be happy to see a powerful force rising up in the city. If we offend those demonic beasts, the consequences will be dire. However, the Chaos Demon City is the only place we can temporarily stay in the dark forest, said Hua Fankong. Are there demonic beasts in the Chaos Demon City? Du Xiaofu frowned. Then, he nodded and said to Hua Fankong, since that's the case, bring your men to Chaos Demon City first. If you arrive first, just wait for me in Chaos Demon City. I will go to Chaos Demon City when the time comes. As his voice fell, Du Xiaofu's face suddenly froze. He stared at Hua Fankong. His eyes were piercingly cold as he said, since you have agreed to join the World Society, then from today onwards, you are no longer the leader of the Kuei Sha gang. You are the leader of the World Society. In addition, I want to remind you that you are joining of your own accord. If you have any intention of betraying us, I will not be polite. Looking at Du Xiaofu's piercingly cold eyes, Hua Fankong thought of the fate of Shui Yunming and the others. His heart couldn't help but tremble. He nodded and said, I have agreed to join, so I will not betray you. Hua Fankong greets the president. As his voice fell, Hua Fankong knelt down on one knee and bowed respectfully. Hua Fankong followed the purple-robed youth because of the threat of the Black Fiend sect. On the other hand, only Hua Fankong himself knew the reason. After interacting with the purple-robed youth for a few days, Hua Fankong realized that the purple-robed youth before him was much more extraordinary than he had imagined. It wouldn't take long for him to realize that the purple-robed youth was no ordinary person. Hua Fankong was also clear that Du Xiaofu had the backing of the entire Tianwu Academy behind him. Even though this ferocious youth didn't show any mercy to his enemies, he treated his own people well. When the purple-robed youth rose to prominence, it would be an opportunity for Hua Fankong to follow him. If Hua Fankong were to miss this opportunity, there wouldn't be another one in the future. Dozens of years later, when Hua Fankong rose into the ranks of influential figures in the Central Plains and looked down on countless empires, he would realize how wise his decision was. It was the wisest decision he had made in his entire life. Of course, this was a story for another day. Dusk. As the last rays of the sunset faded away, the world darkened. Dusk was like a large gray net, quietly spreading down and enveloping the entire land. As night fell, the blue sky was dotted with countless stars. The moon was dark and the stars were bright. On the mountain peak where he treated his injuries, in the cave where he tempered his body with the blood essence of the Xianyun scarlet flood dragon, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. After parting with Hua Fankong, Du Xiaofu didn't head to the chaotic demon city immediately. Instead, he returned to the mountain peak where he had settled down. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. The heavenly purple gold tower on his back had just reached the ground. Even though the heavenly purple gold tower was astonishingly heavy, Du Xiaofu didn't dare to remove it easily. Du Xiaofu didn't head to the chaotic demon city immediately. On one hand, he estimated that Hua Fankong wouldn't be able to reach the chaotic demon city so quickly. On the other hand, Xue Tianqiu would definitely search the entire world for him after receiving news of his son's death. The most dangerous place was also the safest place. Thus, Du Xiaofu decided to settle down nearby first. With the heavenly purple gold tower on his back, his strength couldn't compete with a martial king. Now that his speed was greatly affected, Du Xiaofu had no choice but to be careful. In the distance, countless people rushed into the sealed land to search for treasures. This had nothing to do with Du Xiaofu anymore. Du Xiaofu wouldn't pay attention to it either. The treasures were already in his hands. However, whether it was a blessing or a curse, Du Xiaofu didn't know. Phew. After pondering for a moment in the cave, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. Then, he took out the bronze five-fingered mountain peak and the small rune pagoda. His elder brother, Zhen Qingchun, had entered the pagoda to recover. There had been no news of him for a long time. Du Xiaofu didn't dare to disturb him. Du Xiaoyao had consumed too much energy suppressing the heavenly purple gold tower this time and needed to recover. Du Xiaofu also didn't dare to disturb him. I've gained a lot today. After a while, Du Xiaofu put away the small pagoda and the mountain peak. Then, he took out the many qiankuan bags he had collected today. Chi, Du Xiaofu began to undo the seals on the qiankuan bags one by one. It had to be said that undoing the seals on the qiankuan bags was also a kind of training for a talisman master. Not all talisman masters could easily open every qiankuan bag. The stronger one was, the stronger the seal on the qiankuan bag, and the harder it would be to open it. It wasn't easy for a talisman master who wasn't strong enough to open it. If they forcefully opened it, they could only destroy the bag. Under Du Xiaofu's calmness, the qiankuan bags were opened by Du Xiaofu one by one. Although it took a lot of time, he still managed to open them successfully. And the harvest in the qiankuan bags was enough to make Du Xiaofu smile. There were many cultivation resources such as martial skills, xian stones, elixirs, and so on. In Xue Yunming's qiankuan bag, Du Xiaofu even saw a marquis-grade soul channeling elixir. It was the elixir that Xue Yunming had bought for 380,000 xian stones in the Mu family's trading company. The soul channeling elixir was a treasure. If a peak meridian spirit stage cultivator consumed it, it could increase the chances of breaking through to the martial marquis realm by 30%. Most importantly, the soul channeling elixir could increase the chances of the meridian spirit and martial veins successfully fusing by half. Although it was only at the marquis grade soul channeling elixir, it was priceless. Its value was often much higher than marquis grade mysterious grade soul channeling elixir. At the auction, Du Xiaofu was also a little moved, but he couldn't use it at the moment. Moreover, the price had made Du Xiaofu sigh, so he didn't make a move. Now that he had obtained it, it was quite a pleasant surprise for Du Xiaofu. After organizing the harvest in all the qiankuan bags, Du Xiaofu took out another Qianquan bag and muttered, "I wonder what's hidden inside." A thought passed through Du Xiaofu's mind as his soft muttering sounded. After which, an enormous being appeared in front of him. Today's update is complete. Chapter 349. The gigantic tiger phantom was pitch black from head to toe, looking mighty and ferocious. It directly started to destroy the spiritual stove and talisman cauldron. Du Xiaofu's current spiritual stove and talisman cauldron were simply unable to resist that kind of terrifying power. What berserk blood essence! Du Xiaofu was both surprised and delighted. This blood essence was so tyrannical, which was enough to show how terrifyingly powerful this headless demon beast skeleton had been when it was alive. However, he was currently unable to suppress it, which was a huge problem. Using blood to suppress blood. At this moment, Du Xiaofu didn't have the slightest chance to delay. Condensing his hand seals, he freed his hand and once again bit his index finger. Several drops of light golden blood directly shot into the spiritual stove and talisman cauldron. Du Xiaogang hoped to use the special golden-winged rock blood in his body to suppress that terrifying tiger's blood essence. Walala, after Du Xiaofu's own light golden blood dripped into the spiritual stove and talisman cauldron, the light golden blood seemed to have sensed the movements and fluctuations of the black demon tiger. A tyrannical aura abruptly swept out, and with a flicker of golden light, it directly condensed into the phantom of a golden-winged rock. Gee! The phantom of the golden-winged rock let out a roar, as if thunder was rumbling. Mysterious talisman patterns were spat out, and its tyrannical might was incomparably fierce. Its aura swept out like a vast ocean, and the mysterious talisman patterns on its body flickered, its might shocking the heavens. Ho ho! Facing the phantom of the golden-winged rock, the black demon tiger phantom's eyes were filled with apprehension, but it wasn't as terrified as the other demon beasts. Facing the sky, it roared, as if wanting to pounce at the phantom of the golden-winged rock. Bang! Following the appearance of the phantom of the golden-winged rock, an invisible tyrannical aura filled the air. Tyrannical and ferocious, its imposing manner suppressed everything, immediately suppressing the gigantic demon tiger. The phantom of the black demon tiger immediately shattered and disappeared, and a fist-sized blood-red blood essence appeared at the bottom of the spiritual stove and talisman cauldron. Collect. It was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. Du Xiaofu's mind immediately moved, and he found a jade bottle, collecting all the essence blood inside the cauldron into it. Du Xiaofu even used his own blood to set up a seal in case something happened to the blood essence of the demonic tiger. At this moment, the huge headless demonic beast's corpse was left with the last lump. It was still the size of a baby. Under the burning of the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron's flames, the ball of light didn't spill any more blood, but kept emitting a sizzling sound. At the same time, it slowly shrank like a snakeskin, gradually reducing its volume. This last item was particularly difficult to burn. Although Du Xiaofu had consumed almost all of it, he did not give up and continued to refine it. As the flames burned, Du Xiaofu could feel that this infant-sized object no longer belonged to the demonic tiger. It was the object that had an invisible connection with him back then. As time slowly passed, that infant-sized object was already shrinking more and more. In the end, it was only the size of 2 palms, revealing an oval-shaped silhouette, surrounded by a blood-colored membrane, just like a thick layer of liquid. Du Xiaofu's gaze and senses detected that on top of that blood-colored membrane, there was a layer of light golden blood. It was the blood that had dripped down when he was refining the demonic beast's corpse. At this moment, as the surrounding impurities were completely refined by the flames, the light golden blood seemed to be affected by something, and started to slowly drill into that blood membrane, as if being absorbed by something. As the light golden blood was absorbed by something, that blood membrane started to gradually dry up under the burning of the flames, before finally turning into ashes and dissipating. Then, an oval-shaped egg appeared in front of Du Xiaofu's eyes. What's that? Du Xiaofu was astonished. That oval-shaped egg was the size of a palm, with some dry wrinkles on its surface, just like a malnourished child. Faintly, the last traces of light golden blood could be seen being absorbed by that oval-shaped egg. Walala! Along with the appearance of this oval-shaped egg, Du Xiaofu abruptly felt the blood in his body start to boil violently. Between these fluctuations and that oval-shaped egg, there seemed to be some kind of indescribably peculiar connection. Along with the appearance of that oval-shaped egg, the surrounding space started to distort, and a terrifying aura spread out. Immediately, the flames inside the cauldron were directly absorbed by that oval-shaped egg. Just like a bottomless pit, it swallowed the flames in an unending stream. Not good. Under this kind of absorption, Du Xiaofu's expression changed greatly. His cauldron was on the verge of being destroyed, which scared Du Xiaofu so much that he immediately withdrew his cauldron. If his cauldron was destroyed, the talisman master would directly suffer heavy injuries. Walala! The oval-shaped egg floated in the cave, spreading an astonishing green radiance. Du Xiaofu could invisibly feel that there seemed to be something calling out to him from inside the egg, as if telling Du Xiaofu something. This kind of feeling came from his bloodline, and could only be sensed and not expressed in words. Do you still want my blood? Du Xiaofu looked inside that oval-shaped egg. Under this kind of incorporeal call, Du Xiaofu seemed to be able to feel that there was something inside that urgently needed his blood. Let's see what you are in the end. After a moment of hesitation, Du Xiaofu sensed the aura connected to him inside the egg, and clenched his teeth. Using his forefinger, he once again shot a stream of light golden blood into that oval-shaped egg. At the instant the light golden blood landed on that oval-shaped egg, it was rapidly absorbed by an incorporeal force. Walala! Afterwards, the whole oval-shaped egg seemed to have received some kind of intense stimulation. Inside, a green radiance started to cover the whole eggshell like a cocoon of light, and its surface area grew bigger and bigger. The speed at which the green cocoon spread was extremely fast, and in just a few blinks of an eye, it completely covered that oval-shaped egg. The bizarre green cocoon of light had already reached a size of 3 meters. Floating in the air of the cave, a terrifying energy fluctuation accompanied by an astonishing pressure spread out. That kind of pressure made even Du Xiaofu feel apprehensive. It was definitely not much weaker than the golden-winged great rock's pressure. What a powerful pressure! Seeing this kind of change, Du Xiaofu was filled with astonishment. In the midst of Du Xiaofu's astonishment, in a short time, the green cocoon of light covering the oval-shaped egg started to erupt with dazzling mysterious runes. Like countless threads of energy, the energy fluctuations became more and more astonishing. Even a dense green fog seeped out from within the green cocoon of light. In the end, it almost filled the entire cave. As the dense fog spread out, the energy fluctuations that spread out from the oval-shaped egg became more and more intense. A terrifying pressure constantly spread out from within the dense fog, causing Du Xiaofu's expression to change more and more. Under the pressure of that pressure, Du Xiaofu felt that he was increasingly unable to resist that pressure. What exactly is inside? It's too terrifying. Du Xiaofu was shocked. That pressure was frightening and astonishing, and it seemed to have some kind of connection with him. Strictly speaking, it should have some kind of connection with the aura of the golden-winged Great Rock clan. Under the increasingly terrifying pressure, in the end, Du Xiaofu could only activate the aura of the golden-winged Great Rock in his body to resist it. Only then did he feel better. However, the aura of the golden-winged Great Rock could not suppress the restlessness of the blood in his body at this time. Du Xiaofu felt that even his chest was inexplicably restless at this time, as if there was something in his chest that was strongly attracted to it. Boom! Suddenly, a huge energy fluctuation rushed out from within the green cocoon of light, causing the entire cave to tremble violently. Is something coming out? Feeling the sudden energy impact, Du Xiaofu was stunned for a moment. Then, he fixed his eyes on the green cocoon of light. Walala, the green cocoon of light became more and more dazzling, and then many cracks began to appear on it. Like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon, countless dazzling green rays of light erupted. Fortunately, this was inside the cave, and the entrance of the cave was also sealed by Du Xiaofu. Otherwise, just this dazzling light alone would be enough to attract the attention of countless adventurers in the surrounding mountains, who were looking for the cave residence of the weapon venerable. The green cocoon of light cracked, and the cracks became bigger and bigger. In the end, like a blooming lotus, pieces of the cocoon of light fell off. The dense fog spread. In the hazy fog, Du Xiaofu saw a hazy and beautiful figure appear in the fog. In the dense fog, the hazy and beautiful figure became clearer and clearer. It was a graceful and beautiful figure. In the hazy fog, the beautiful figure had a jade-like body. Her skin was white and rosy, and she was as gentle as jade. Her waist was slender, and her long black hair was as smooth as a waterfall. It reached her soft waist and buttocks, and her legs were long and slender. Her figure was enchanting and graceful. The green talisman patterns and dense fog that filled the cave began to pour out of the enchanting and graceful body. Along with the energy of heaven and earth, they directly poured into the body. At this time, the enchanting and perfect body was like a bottomless pit, crazily absorbing the energy of heaven and earth in the cave. When the last green talisman patterns and green dense fog in the cave were absorbed into the enchanting body and the beautiful face were completely revealed in front of Du Xiaofu's eyes. She had a face so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of nations, but she looked like she was only 15 or 16 years old. She looked young and inexperienced, which did not seem to match her naturally bewitching and seductive curves. There will be a lot of updates today. There is still one more. Xiao Yu will eat first, and then continue to write. The update will probably be after 11 o'clock. Chapter 350. Moments later, the young girl's eyelashes trembled slightly. Accompanied by the blossoming of a faint green glow, her tightly shut eyes opened slightly, her pitch-black pupils as clear as a stream. At this moment, her jade-like body was suspended in the air, her face devastatingly beautiful, curvy in all the right places. However, her eyes were ethereal, her lips like cherry petals. She looked pure and innocent, causing one to be completely unable to sense any evil intentions from her. The young girl's eyes opened, her gaze sweeping across the cave before finally landing on Du Xiaofu's body. Within her pitch-black pupils, the gaze that looked at Du Xiaofu was warm and gentle, containing an indescribable purity. Who are you? I can feel that you are the one who awakened me. The aura on your body does not seem like my father's, nor does it seem like my mother's. The young girl's figure slowly descended, and then stood directly in front of Du Xiaofu. A puzzled look flashed across her face, before a smile surfaced on her devastatingly beautiful face. Looking at Du Xiaofu, she happily said, I know now. You are my brother. You must be my brother. The young girl smiled, her smile like a blooming epiphyllum of the world, releasing a serene melody, so beautiful that it could sink into one's heart. Although she was bewitching, there was also a kind of pure and holy beauty to her, causing one to be able to engrave her into one's heart with a single glance. Who are you? Looking at this graceful, bewitching and holy young girl before him, who had even called him brother the moment she opened her mouth, Du Xiaofu's mouth was so shocked that it could fit a duck egg inside. He had not expected that there would actually be such an astonishing young girl hidden within the egg within the headless demonic beast's corpse. Who am I? Hearing this, a puzzled look appeared in the young girl's pitch-black eyes, as if she was deep in thought. A moment later, she lifted her head to look at Du Xiaofu. Her pure and innocent gaze was so anxious that it seemed as if tears were about to flow out, causing one's heart to break at the sight of it. She said to Du Xiaofu, I don't remember. I don't seem to remember anything. All right, there's no hurry. Hurry up and put on your clothes. Du Xiaofu's heart melted as he looked at the girl's pitiful appearance. The girl in front of him was still covered in childish clothing. Although her temperament made it difficult for anyone to have any evil thoughts, Du Xiaofu's heart still raced when he looked at her like this. He immediately took out a purple robe from his storage ring and covered her with it. He wasn't wearing any female clothing. The young girl's purple robe was rather loose, but her slender figure was enough to set off the purple robe. She wore a purple robe and her hair was loosely tied up. Her every movement revealed an extraordinary temperament that was enchanting and holy. "Brother, where are we now?" After tidying up, the girl intimately pulled Du Xiaofu's arm, blinking her pitch-black and ethereal eyes as she spoke to Du Xiaofu. "I'm not your brother, Du Xiaofu didn't know how to explain it for a moment. His brows twitched slightly. Could it be because the egg had absorbed his blood? "Brother, don't you want me anymore?" I can't remember anything, but I can feel that you are my family. There is a blood connection between us. Don't you want me anymore?" Before Du Xiaofu could finish his words, the girl started crying. Her beautiful face was filled with sparkling and translucent tears, making it impossible for anyone not to be moved. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu also panicked. He had no choice but to quickly raise his hand and use the long sleeve of his purple robe to wipe away the 2 lines of sparkling tears on the girl's beautiful face. He helplessly said, "I don't want you. You are right, I am your brother. I was just joking with you." "Really?" The young girl stopped crying and lifted her head to look at Du Xiaofu. Her face, which was still delicate and pitiful a moment ago, instantly revealed a smile that was as beautiful as the epiphyllum of the world. She said, "I knew that Big Brother would not abandon me." "That's right, Big Brother, I can't remember my name." "What's my name?" Du Xiaofu was stunned, then said, "Little Qing, you are called Little Qing." "Little Qing," the girl murmured softly, then happily looked at Du Xiaofu, blinking her ethereal eyes innocently, and said, "Then what is brother's name?" "My name is Du Xiaofu." Du Xiaofu looked at the girl in front of him and felt the aura of the girl. That terrifying aura from before was now nowhere to be found. However, from the invisible aura, she should also be in the body of a monster. However, a monster in the body of a monster needs to be a beast king to be able to transform into a human. Could it be that this girl has reached the martial king realm? "Brother is Du Xiaofu, I am Little Qing, Du Xiaoqing." Du Xiaoqing murmured happily, the smile on her face moving people's souls. Rumble. At this moment, the entire mountain suddenly trembled and swayed, as if it was about to collapse. It was like an earthquake. "A strong master is coming." Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly narrowed. He used his mind to investigate and found that a strong master was coming. A shocking amount of energy was pressing down on the entire mountain. Swoosh swoosh. When Du Xiaofu appeared outside the cave, he immediately looked at the sky. At this moment, 3 figures wrapped in flowing light were constantly clashing against each other, the aftermath of the energy spreading across the sky. Du Xiaofu looked from afar, it seemed like 2 people were attacking one person. The person being surrounded seemed to be in a bad situation. The figure wrapped in flowing light made Du Xiaofu feel a sense of familiarity. The 3 of them collided with each other. Rumbling sounds rang out incessantly, resounding through the air. The aura that spread out from any one of them was absolutely terrifying. Waves of energy spread out, and the surrounding mountains were affected. Many of the mountains were directly destroyed. Yi Piaoling also appeared on the mountain peak. He retracted his gaze from the sky and looked at Du Xiaoqing, who was beside Du Xiaofu. It had only been 2 days, but Yi Piaoling found it strange that there was another girl beside Du Xiaofu. In these 2 days, he had been cultivating in the cave beside Du Xiaofu's. Occasionally, he would feel the shocking waves coming from Du Xiaofu's cave. "This is my little sister." Du Xiaofu turned his head and said to Yi Piaoling. He continued to look at the sky and said, "What is going on?" Hearing this, Yi Piaoling moved his gaze away from Du Xiaoqing and said to Du Xiaofu, it seems like they are all martial kings. I don't know where they came from, we'd better avoid them. Bang! Just as Yi Piaoling finished speaking, the person who was besieged in the sky finally couldn't withstand the attacks of the other two and was severely injured. His body directly fell from the sky and landed on the mountain peak where Du Xiaofu, Yi Piaoling, and Du Xiaoqing were. It caused the ground to tremble and many cracks appeared. Pfft! The flowing light slightly disappeared and revealed a grey-robed elder. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. When he saw the grey-robed elder, Du Xiaofu's heart suddenly trembled. This grey-robed elder was none other than the Medicine King. Kid, it's you. The Medicine King also saw Du Xiaofu. On his old face, he was extremely surprised to see Du Xiaofu. Then, he glanced at the two figures in the sky and his eyes narrowed. He immediately said to Du Xiaofu, "Hurry up and leave." "You know each other?" Yi Piaoling asked Du Xiaofu. "Kind of." Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. He didn't expect to see the Medicine King everywhere. This guy was like a ghost that wouldn't go away. He could be seen everywhere. In a short moment, two auras descended and swept across the sky. The two flowing lights disappeared and revealed two figures. One of them was a burly man in short clothes. One of his left eyes was covered with an eye patch. The remaining eye emitted a bright light that was as sharp as a large knife. The other person was a tall and thin old man. His eyes were cold and his aura was cold and terrifying. The two of them floated in the air. The profound chi around them filled the sky. The runes on their bodies spread, causing the space to tremble. The profound chi in Du Xiaofu's body also felt stagnant. Both of them are in the martial king realm. Du Xiaofu was shocked. Although he had seen a super expert like his master, Du Xiaofu was still an expert in the martial king realm. He was an expert that he couldn't compete with at the moment. Hand over the treasure. The burly man in short clothes and the tall and thin elder locked their eyes on the Medicine King. They didn't hide the coldness in their eyes. In your dreams. The Medicine King's face darkened. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and immediately stuffed a few elixirs into his mouth. His pale face began to redden at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was enough to show that the elixirs were extraordinary. If you don't hand over the treasure, then die. The old expert's eyes were cold. A murderous sneer flashed across his eyes. A rune flowed and immediately covered his entire body. An extremely violent energy suddenly spread out and filled his entire body. Then, his figure rushed toward the Medicine King like lightning. Accompanied by a low muffled sound, a palm print directly hit the Medicine King. Boom! The palm print swooped down from the sky and enveloped Du Xiaofu, Yi Piaoling, and Du Xiaoqing. Retreat! Du Xiaofu let out a yell and immediately pulled Du Xiaoqing away from the scene. It would be extremely unpleasant to be caught in the attack of a martial emperor realm expert. Humph! The Medicine King coldly snorted and waved his hand slightly. A stream of light suddenly swept out from his side. It was actually a 1-meter-tall humanoid puppet that looked like a dwarf. A rather terrifying aura spread out from it. With a sharp sound of breaking wind, the rune light condensed and collided with the tall and skinny old man without any fancy moves. Bang! Under such a collision, the human-shaped puppet's aura was extremely powerful. However, under the tall and thin elder's palm, it was still ruthlessly smashed down. It directly crashed into the mountain below and stabbed into a crack in the rock. The surrounding cracks cracked and collapsed. Chapter 351. Seeing his puppet destroyed in one move, the Medicine King frowned. Chi! In a short moment, the one-eyed man's eyes glinted coldly. His figure appeared in front of the Medicine King like a ghost. He clenched his fist, and a ferocious aura filled the sky. Boom! The terrifying energy distorted the space, causing a faint circular dent to appear in the space in front of the fist. With a muffled sound of spatial energy, the fist arrived in front of the Medicine King in a flash. Facing the one-eyed man's ferocious fist, the Medicine King's expression remained solemn. The profound energy around his body exploded, and a wave of runes spread out from his body, wrapping around him. Finally, it turned into a rune energy halo, blocking the one-eyed man's fist. Whoosh! Blocking the punch, the rune energy halo was on the verge of shattering, and the mighty energy spread across the sky. Things don't look good. Du Xiaofu, who had already retreated, floated in the air and watched the three terrifying experts fighting in the air. The King of Medicine was a 6-star talisman master, but the situation was extremely bad at this time. Let's leave quickly. Yi Piaoling said to Du Xiaofu. A fight between cultivators of that level was not something they could participate in. I'm afraid it won't be easy to leave. That old man is the Medicine King, the Medicine King you're looking for. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Although he wanted to leave after seeing the Medicine King, he turned back to look at Yi Piaoling. He knew that Yi Piaoling had been looking for the Medicine King to resolve the Crimson Fiend palm. If he took the opportunity to leave, Yi Piaoling would have no hope. Even if Yi Piaoling stayed behind alone, the Medicine King would not help Yi Piaoling when he saw her with him, even if he could resolve the Crimson Fiend palm. He is the Medicine King. Hearing this, Yi Piaoling also trembled, and her gaze immediately turned to the Medicine King again. Swish, swish. In a short moment, the one-eyed man's punch did not shatter the runic halo that the Medicine King had condensed. However, following that, as his 5 fingers curled slightly, he condensed a claw imprint, and a series of claw imprints continuously tore down. The claw imprints fell like a torrential rain, and the energy erupted like a flash flood. In the end, it directly tore apart the runic halo that the Medicine King had condensed, and the vigorous runic energy spread out in all directions like waves. Chi-la-la, the rune halo was torn apart, and the Medicine King was once again pushed back. For a talisman master, the King of Medicine was not yet a talisman master. His strength was not at the same level as a talisman master. He had no advantage at all and would only be at a disadvantage. Chi. The tall and skinny old man took the opportunity to close in and appeared in front of the King of Medicine like a ghost. A palm print directly hit the King of Medicine's chest. Boom! A huge force swept down, and King of Medicine's body was once again sent crashing into the mountain, causing the entire mountain to tremble. Swish! The one-eyed man's figure flashed down again, and he pounced on the King of Medicine like a flash of lightning. A palm print directly enveloped the King of Medicine. Fight! Du Xiaofu's expression was ugly. If the King of Medicine was really dead, then the crimson palm on Yi Piaoling's body would be troublesome. Sky-shaking wings. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not have time to hesitate. Profound qi surged from the soles of his feet, and his figure pounced on the one-eyed man like a flash of lightning. An overbearing aura erupted, and a golden palm print suddenly slapped towards the one-eyed man's back. The one-eyed man who was about to slap the King of Medicine suddenly felt movement behind him. If he continued to slap the King of Medicine, he would definitely be attacked from behind. Brat, you're courting death. The one-eyed man's expression changed, and he suddenly had no choice but to turn around. The palm print that was originally aimed at the King of Medicine was instantly slapped towards Du Xiaofu. Bang! The moment the two of them collided, a muffled sound of spatial energy was immediately heard, causing the surroundings to rumble like thunder. At the place where the two energies collided, the vigorous energy rippled and spread in all directions, shooting into the sky. Chi-la-la, under such a collision, the one-eyed man's body only swayed slightly, but Du Xiaofu's body was directly slapped to the ground. Boom! Du Xiaofu's body fell heavily on the ground, rubbing a deep rock crack on the mountain peak. After standing up, his palm was slightly numb. The strength of a martial king was indeed powerful. What a strong physical body. The one-eyed man's eyes revealed a look of surprise. He originally thought that the brat was dead, but he did not expect that the purple-robed youth would be fine after taking his palm. The strength of his physical body was definitely tyrannical. You deal with that brat, I'll deal with the king of medicine. Let's end this quickly. The tall and skinny old man coldly shouted, glancing at Du Xiaofu indifferently, and then continued to pounce on the king of medicine. Humph, you're courting death. Seeing that the tall and skinny old man had already pounced on the king of medicine, the one-eyed man's face darkened. Then, his figure swept towards Du Xiaofu, and a palm print directly slapped out. Floating sky suppression. Suddenly, waves of black energy suddenly spread out, surging violently, suppressing everything. Killing intent filled the air, and directly enveloped the one-eyed man. The one-eyed man's eyes flickered with suspicion. In this wave of black energy, which was fiercer than the previous one, he felt a suppression. Whine. Yi Piaoling's figure appeared in the space enveloped by the black energy. She held the serene python in her hand, and a bright light burst out. Her body's faint black qi was poured into it, and the wang sound of wind and thunder suddenly resounded from the serene python. Boom! In an instant, a liquid-like rune energy flowed and spread out from the body of the serene python sword. A terrifying energy pressure was released. The rune dazzled and rushed out, quickly condensing into a huge serene python that was dozens of feet long. Hiss hiss. The gigantic python was like a sword and a beast. The runes filled the sky, and its aura was shocking, causing one's heart to tremble. Facing a martial king expert, Yi Piaoling immediately activated two of her strongest attacks. Together, she hoped to be able to contend against a martial lord expert. Serene Python Sword Skill. Yi Piaoling shouted in a low and sharp voice. The serene python sword radiance swept out, and a terrifying aura burst out like a flood. Wherever the serene python passed, the space was distorted, and a dazzling sword radiance swept out. With a sharp, ear-piercing sound, it broke through the space like thunder. The martial lord realm is mysterious. Unexpectedly, you have such strength. It seems that you have a powerful background. It is also a good sword. This time, I have gained a lot. At this moment, facing Yi Piaoling's fierce attack, the one-eyed man's single eye, which was as sharp as a blade, was shrouded by the serene python runes. His pupils shrank, but he did not take it to heart. He waved his hand, and a rune fingerprint condensed. His chi exploded, and like a thunderbolt, it landed on the sword radiance python. Chi. As the fingerprint landed, the serene python rune was horrifying, but it could not resist the thunderbolt finger. Instantly, it shattered into pieces, and the sword radiance shot out like fireworks. The blood in Yi Piaoling's mouth kept spilling in the air. Her body fell from the sky and landed beside Du Xiaofu. The impact caused a large area of rocks to crack. You are still wet behind the ears. You overestimate yourself. The one-eyed man's eyes were cold and sharp. His 5 fingers curled slightly, and a claw print was formed. Immediately, it fell towards Yi Piaoling like a goshawk preying on its prey. Roar! It was also at this moment that a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar echoed through the mountain peaks. At this moment, the earth was rumbling, and the space was trembling. The aura was overbearing, and the pressure was unparalleled. Du Xiaofu attacked again. His clear eyes flashed with a lightning-like light. His purple robes fluttered in the wind. With his body as the center, cracks spread out from the bottom of his feet. At this moment, Du Xiaofu activated the mysterious move. As his cultivation became stronger and his comprehension became stronger, the power of the mysterious move became more and more terrifying. Buzz! The seals formed by Du Xiaofu's hands changed as the mysterious runes on the symbol puppet released ripples, transforming into a palm imprint with lightning-like speed. A low chanting sound was emitted from it. After which, the mysterious runes on the symbol puppet cut through the air and directly rushed towards the one-eyed large man. In a flash, the palm imprint and the one-eyed large man's claw imprint collided with each other. Rumble. Such a collision caused a thunder-like muffled sound of energy to suddenly resound between heaven and earth. Frightening energy ripples suddenly swept out like a stormy sea. The impact caused the entire mountain peak to shake, and countless boulders tumbled down and shattered. Kaka, Du Xiaofu's feet sank deeply into the rocky ground, and the surrounding rocks continued to crack. Faint golden blood flowed out from his mouth, and his face began to turn pale. Only at the initial pulse spirit stage. What a tyrannical martial skill. The one-eyed man's body staggered back in the air, and shock once again appeared in his eyes. Such a tyrannical martial skill was definitely something he had never seen in his life. The purple-robed youth's cultivation was only at the initial pulse spirit stage, and yet his strength was so tyrannical. His face darkened slightly, and with a thought, a wave of profound chi rapidly surged. What a tyrannical martial skill. It should be good if you give it to me. Then, I'll destroy you. After a short pause, the one-eyed man once again rushed down. A claw print was sent out, and frightening energy erupted. It seemed to want to tear apart space, and in an instant, it had arrived in front of Du Xiaofu. Is he going to go all out? Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed, and his gaze turned serious. He could feel the claw print that seemed to want to tear apart space. It was likely that he could only go all out in order to contend against it. The Martial King stage was really too powerful and terrifying. You're not allowed to bully my brother. Just as the one-eyed man's claw print appeared a foot away from Du Xiaofu, a clear and ethereal voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 352. In this short period of time, a graceful figure in purple robes appeared in front of Du Xiaofu in an incomparably bizarre manner. As the purple-robed figure appeared, a fair and slender hand reached out and clenched into a fist. Green light erupted and a circle of faintly discernible marks appeared in the air. Then, the fist directly collided with the one-eyed man's claw imprint. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Bang! At such close proximity, the fist and claw imprint collided and instantly collided. For some unknown reason, the one-eyed man's expression abruptly changed as if he had sensed something. Immediately, a terrifying green light poured into his claw imprint. Crack! The frightening force poured out, and in that instant, the one-eyed man's arm was directly fractured with a crack. A concave shape clearly appeared on his right arm, all the way up to his shoulder. Then, his entire right arm went limp and could no longer move, blood continuously spurting from his mouth. Crack! The one-eyed man's body was immediately sent flying like an impact cannon, violently smashing into the mountain's rocky walls behind him. Boom! The mountain trembled and was on the verge of collapse. The one-eyed man's body was forcefully smashed into the rocks, causing countless boulders around him to roll down. The sharp gaze in his single eye was filled with shock and fear at this moment, and his mouth also let out a miserable howl. Goo goo! When this scene appeared, Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling were immediately stunned. They looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling's shocked and horrified gazes instantly locked onto the purple-robed figure in front of them, their gazes as if they had seen a ghost. Who else could the beautiful figure who had attacked be other than the seemingly frail and innocent Du Xiaoqing? Not good. At this moment, the tall and skinny old man, who had already exchanged blows with the Medicine King, saw from the corner of his eye that the one-eyed man had been seriously injured in one move. The expression on his wrinkled face changed drastically. Since that terrifying young lady could seriously injure the one-eyed man in one move, he was naturally no match for her. Now that he had the upper hand in front of the Medicine King, he immediately made a decision. He instantly fled, not daring to linger at all. Clean and efficient, without the slightest hesitation. You're also a bad person who bullied my brother. I can't let you escape. On Du Xiaoqing's drop-dead gorgeous face, her pure and innocent temperament was completely chilly at this moment. Her entire body was wrapped in dazzling green light, causing her to seem charming, holy, and peerlessly noble. Her beautiful figure was like a bolt of lightning, and she actually vanished on the spot like a ghost. Even her afterimage was difficult to see clearly. Chi! Get down! A clear and ethereal low voice rang out, and a green aura rushed out from her body. Her delicate hand fell, and the green talisman engravings on her palm exploded, solidifying and suppressing the entire sky. Her aura was noble as she slapped towards the tall and skinny old man. The aura of the Beast Clan. The tall and skinny old man was shocked. This young lady clearly had the aura of the Beast Clan, but at this moment, he couldn't even sense the cultivation level of this young lady. He could only feel that under that terrifying aura, a pressure caused the profound chi in his body to stagnate, and his meridians and souls to not dare to move. This young lady's original body was definitely an incomparably terrifying existence. In a panic, a strange white rune surged out from the tall and skinny old man's body, turning into a layer of white ice. In the blink of an eye, it covered his body, forming a white ice armor to protect his body. As the ice armor condensed, Du Xiaoqing's palm landed on the bone-chilling ice armor. Gotcha! A huge force swept out, causing the sky to tremble violently. The green talisman engravings directly destroyed the ice armor, turning into runes and disappearing. Chi la la. Almost unstoppable, the tall and skinny old man's body directly smashed down from the sky like a meteorite, crashing into the mountain peak. It was unknown whether Du Xiaoqing did it intentionally or not, but the tall and skinny old man's body smashed down, coincidentally hitting the one-eyed man who had just escaped from the crack in the rock. Bang bang! With a low muffled sound, under the impact of the tall and skinny old man's fall, the one-eyed man was once again smashed into the rock on the ground. Poochie, the two of them smashed down, spitting out blood from their mouths. The entire huge mountain peak shook and cracked from the impact. Swoosh swoosh. The King of Medicine's figure appeared in an instant, and several fingerprints fell like lightning on the one-eyed man and the tall and thin old man, who were already seriously injured. The two of them were imprisoned, and their chi and martial veins were sealed. After doing all this quickly, the Medicine King raised his head and looked at the purple-robed young lady who was slowly descending from the sky. His eyes, which had always been calm, rippled like stormy waves at this moment. The two of them were martial king realm experts, who could be considered as strong figures in the entire central state. But at this moment, they were actually directly injured by the seemingly innocent young lady to the point that they couldn't even fight back. How shocking was that? Gulp gulp, Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling both had blood dripping from the corners of their mouths, but at this moment, their eyes were lifeless, their throats were moving, and they continuously swallowed their saliva. Brother, are you okay? Du Xiaoqing's graceful figure landed in front of Du Xiaofu. The loose purple robe couldn't cover up her enchanting curves. On the young lady's face, her pure and innocent eyes were looking at Du Xiaofu, full of concern and worry. I'm fine. It's just a small injury. I'll be able to recover after a period of time. Looking at the young lady in front of him, Du Xiaofu could only be shocked. How could this girl break out of the cocoon inside the powerful demonic tiger's corpse? Was she reborn from the ashes? Or was she just born? It seemed that this girl definitely had many secrets. Kid, let's leave this place first. I'm afraid that someone will come here soon. Not far ahead, there's a hidden place where I usually stay. I'm afraid that you guys will need to heal your injuries first. The King of Medicine said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked at the ground. At this moment, the one-eyed man and the tall and skinny old man were already sealed. He said, "What about them?" Du Xiaofu didn't reject the King of Medicine's suggestion, nor did he have any intention of running away. Yi Piaoling was hit by the Crimson Fiend palm, so he needed the King of Medicine's help. Now that Du Xiaoqing was by his side, Du Xiaofu was even more fearless. "That girl dealt with them. I'll leave them to you." The King of Medicine's gaze once again fell on Du Xiaoqing. His eyes were still filled with shock. "Then take them away." Du Xiaofu made a decision. After all, they were two martial king realm experts. Keeping them alive should be of some use. Whoosh whoosh, after a short period of time, the four of them flew into the sky and disappeared from the mountain peak. After dusk, the night was dark. The moon was dark and the stars were bright, making the desolate mountains dark and gloomy. On a desolate mountain peak, the corpse of a black-robed young man with a broken arm was lying on a rock. He died miserably. A skinny old man in a black robe looked at the corpse of the young man on the rock. His eyes flashed with a cold light. A monstrous evil aura swept out, causing the entire surrounding to suddenly freeze. "Du Xiaofu, I, Xue Tianqiu, swear that I will never let a little bastard like you go. Never." His arrogant and angry laughter resounded like thunder in the night sky. That wild and gloomy voice contained a monstrous baleful aura and coldness, causing the blood and profound energy of countless treasure hunters in the surroundings to almost freeze. Their hairs stood on end for no reason, and uneasiness and fear surged out from their hearts. That baleful aura and coldness caused one's hair to stand on end. Who is this Du Xiaofu? How did he offend Xue Tianqiu? It said that Du Xiaofu is a student of the Tianwu Academy. He was the one who bought the profound spirit heavenly vine from the Mu clan's trading company. This time, it seems that Du Xiaofu killed Xue Tianqiu's son, Xue Yunming. Several martial marquis experts from the Black Fiend sect also died in the hands of Du Xiaofu. Are the students of the Tianwu Academy so terrifying to kill Xue Tianqiu's son? No wonder Xue Tianqiu was enraged. "I'm afraid that Du Xiaofu will be unlucky as long as he's in the dark forest. His ending will definitely be miserable if he falls into Xue Tianqiu's hands." Do you think that Du Xiaofu is easy to deal with? If he's easy to deal with, he wouldn't have killed Xue Yunming. There were many experts in the dark forest recently. Countless experts and adventurers from the surrounding empires flocked into the dark forest in search of the revered artifact abode. It was rumored that there were even people who had witnessed the death of martial king realm experts in the sealed land. Everyone searched bitterly. Although there were many puppets, spiritual tools, talisman weapons, and even priceless forging materials, no one was able to find the real revered artifact abode. There were also rumors that someone must have obtained the real revered artifact abode and left quietly. That was because there were experts who sensed the traces left behind by the supreme treasure in the sealed land. However, whether it was true or false or true, no one could tell for sure. Among them, there was a student of the Tianwu Academy named Du Xiaofu. His name also spread along with the revered artifact abode. Along with Du Xiaofu's anecdotes in the Tianwu Academy, he attracted the attention of countless people in an instant. Under such circumstances, the name Du Xiaofu became one of the most famous students in the Tianwu Academy in recent years. 3 days later, at dawn, the first rays of the rising sun shone through the horizon. Today's explosion, Xiao Yu is still writing. Chapter 353. In an instant, a fireball soared into the sky, a rosy glow covering the horizon. Light and shadow were ever-changing as it enveloped the mountain range, within a secluded valley. In the simple wooden house, a purple-robed, long-haired youth sat cross-legged. His entire body was shrouded in a faint golden glow, and he carried a broadsword wrapped in purple cloth on his back. Huff huff, as the golden glow and profound chi around him burrowed into his body like a spirit snake, the purple-robed youth opened his mouth and spat out a stream of turbid air that rippled in the air before him. His tightly shut eyes opened at the same time, golden runes flashing and receding in his faint golden pupils, then turning into a clear and deep gaze. Big brother, have your injuries healed? A young face drew close to Du Xiaofu's clear eyes that had just opened, a pure and innocent gaze rippling. As he gazed at this face, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but feel a wave of absent-mindedness in his heart. He stretched out his hand to stroke this young and immature face before him, and then he muttered in a low voice, "I wonder how Xiaojing is. Are she and mother well? Big brother, what's wrong? Who is Xiaojing?" Du Xiaoqing raised her head, her ethereal eyes bright as she looked curiously at Du Xiaofu and asked. Du Xiaofu came back to his senses and slowly got up, smiling as he said, "Xiaojing, she should be your elder sister." "Do I still have an elder sister? Where is she now? When can I go see her?" Du Xiaoqing smiled, her smile like a blooming epiphyllum, moving one's heart and soul. Du Xiaofu looked out at the mountains outside the window and said softly, "When Big Brother becomes a strong person, then you can go see her." "Big Brother will definitely become a strong person, I believe in Big Brother," Du Xiaoqing said with certainty, then hooked her arm around Du Xiaofu's arm and said intimately, "Big brother, when the time comes, let's go see big sister together, okay?" "Okay, let's go together." Du Xiaofu turned his head slightly, looking at the young face in front of him. She looked harmless to humans and animals, but who would have thought that this girl could seriously injure a martial king expert with a single slap? When she became fierce, she was absolutely terrifying. A moment later, Du Xiaofu saw the Medicine King in the wooden house's small hall. "Kid, your injuries are recovering quickly. We meet again." Looking at Du Xiaofu, the Medicine King Wuming editor, Chrissy, Pill King, he was also surprised. It seemed that he could see this fierce kid everywhere, and every time they met, this kid's strength. Every time they met, this kid's strength became stronger. In just a few short months, this brat's current strength was likely to be able to directly kill an ordinary martial lord. How could this not shock the Medicine King? "I also, Xiaofu's. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and sat down on the wooden chair beside the Medicine King. He raised his head and looked at the Medicine King Wuming editor. Xiaofu said, "Do you still want to make things difficult for me?" The Medicine King Wuming looked at Du Xiaofu. He knew that this kid in front of him was full of secrets and treasures. Xiaofu said, "The girl beside you is not to be trifled with. I'm afraid that even if I wanted to make things difficult for you, I would not be able to do anything to you. Moreover, you saved me this time, so let's write off all our previous grievances. I don't think there is any grievances between us. It's just that you want to bully the young." Du Xiaofu glared at the Medicine King and then shook his head. He looked at the Medicine King and said, "But this time, we can't write it off. We saved you this time, so you owe us a favor." The Medicine King looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Even if you didn't do anything, do you think that Ice King Qin Hengshan and Eagle King Gong Dao would be able to do anything to me? At most, I would have to pay a heavy price." "Ice King Qin Hengshan, Eagle King Gong Dao, you know them?" Du Xiaofu asked the Medicine King curiously. "Not really, we've only met once or twice. Ice King Qin Hengshan is a fugitive from the Tianhu Empire. It is said that he has committed many crimes in the Tianhu Empire. He is infamous and is not a kind person. Eagle King Gong Dao is a fugitive from the Stone Dragon Empire. It is said that his left eye was destroyed by an expert from the Stone Dragon Empire's Qing family. Now, he doesn't dare to step into the Stone Dragon Empire. I don't know how he offended the Qing family." Wuming said to Du Xiaofu, "I didn't expect these two to have been hiding in the dark forest all these years for the revered weapon cave dwelling. I was lucky this time. Although I didn't get the revered weapon cave dwelling that I wanted, I unexpectedly obtained a 1,000-year-old treasure medicine. I didn't expect Ice King Qin Hengshan and Eagle King Gong Dao to find it." Du Xiaofu's eyes slightly moved. No wonder Medicine King Yi Wuming was besieged by the Ice King and Eagle King. A treasure medicine was very valuable. Du Xiaofu continued to look at Medicine King Yi Wuming and said, "No matter what, you still owe us a favor. Otherwise, I don't mind letting the Ice King and Eagle King go and let them continue to ask you for treasures. Or, I can ask for treasures myself. A treasure medicine is very valuable." "Brat, are you threatening me?" Yi Wuming glared at Du Xiaofu. "You can say that. Every dog has its day. Who asked you to be unable to do anything to me?" Du Xiaofu said bluntly with a smile. With Du Xiaoqing here, he didn't have to worry about Yi Wuming. Yi Wuming glared at him, but he knew that this brat in front of him had a fierce character. He really had some scruples. He had seen the strength of the little girl outside with his own eyes. He then stared at Du Xiaofu and asked, "What do you want? Just say it." "My friend has been hit by the Red Fiend Palm," Du Xiaofu said to Yi Wuming. "Red Fiend Palm?" Yi Wuming slightly frowned and said, "The Red Fiend Palm is a vicious martial skill. Those who are hit by it are almost incurable. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the power of the Red Fiend Palm. It is said that there is no cure." Du Xiaofu suddenly frowned and said, "You are the Medicine King, but you still have no way to save him. The Medicine King is not an immortal. Even if I can't save him, it is normal. I also couldn't save the North Vanquishing Prince's injury. However, the North Vanquishing Prince's injury is not completely incurable. It is just that the price is too high and I am too busy to save him. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me." Yi Wuming said. "That Red Fiend Palm, you also have a way to cure it, right?" Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with hope. "I am not called the Medicine King for no reason. I do have a way, but I need to try it slowly. However, you should know my rules. If I save someone, I will kill that person. Since you two have helped me this time, I can help you, but the rules cannot be changed." Yi Wuming said to Du Xiaofu. "No problem. When the time comes, you can ask him to kill whoever he wants. As long as you can save him, it will be fine." Du Xiaofu said with a smile. If the Medicine King Yi Wuming agreed to help, then Yi Piaoling would be saved. "When the time comes, I will ask him to kill you." Yi Wuming glanced at Du Xiaofu and said. Du Xiaofu heard this and was stunned for a moment. Then, he revealed a smile and said to Yi Wuming, "It doesn't matter. He may not be able to kill me. It is better than letting him kill someone else. If he is killed by someone else, then it would be bad. I don't want to lose a friend. I didn't expect this kid to be so affectionate." Yi Wuming stared at Du Xiaofu for a while and could only helplessly say. Looking at the Medicine King and Dr. Wuming, Du Xiaofu's eyes secretly flickered with some light. He suddenly asked, "Medicine King, you should be a weapon talisman master. You seem to have a lot of knowledge about puppets." Du Xiaofu remembered that 3 days ago, when he was dealing with the Ice King Qin Hengshan and the Eagle King Gong Dao, the Medicine King Yi Wuming had used a puppet. Although that puppet was already very strong, it was much weaker than the puppet refined by his master, the revered weapon master. Hearing this, Yi Wuming's eyes secretly flashed with a trace of sadness. His seemingly old face slightly moved, outlining a trace of a bitter smile. Then looking at Du Xiaofu, Yi Wuming said, "The world thinks that I, Yi Wuming, only have medical skills. My medical skills are not weak, and I can bring the dead back to life. However, no one knows that compared to medical skills, I am more interested in refining weapons. It's just that after leaving that place, my refining skills have stagnated. Dozens of years ago, I accidentally learned that the revered weapon master's cave residence might be in the dark forest. Therefore, I concealed my identity and came to the dark forest to search for clues, hoping to obtain the revered weapon master's refining skills. Finally, the place where the revered weapon master was sealed appeared, but in the end, I didn't have that kind of fortune and opportunity. It seems that in this life, I can only continue to walk on the path of a talisman master. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. Then, after chatting with the Medicine King for a while, he left the wooden house's small hall. The Medicine King Yi Wuming agreed to help cure Yi Piaoling's crimson fiend palm. This made Du Xiaofu feel relieved. However, Yi Piaoling was still recuperating. Looking at the Medicine King's current appearance, his injuries were also not light. Even if he helped, it would probably take some time. In the following time, Du Xiaofu did not intend to leave the hidden wooden house in the deep valley, nor did he pay attention to the Ice King, Qin Hengshan, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao. However, Du Xiaofu was one step ahead of the Medicine King. He had already taken the Ice King and Eagle King's Qinquan bags into his arms. Time passed slowly. In the next few days, Du Xiaofu was in a state of seclusion. In his mind, he sorted out the large amount of refining experience and methods left by his master, the revered weapon master. Chapter 354. The vast amount of knowledge and experience left behind by the venerable weapon master was the treasure of an 8-star formation talisman master's life. For any weapon talisman master in the outside world, this was an absolute great fortune and opportunity, enough to give up everything for it. Even all the 7-star formation talisman masters in the entire middle ground would be willing to risk their lives and go crazy for it. But now, all the knowledge and experience of the venerable weapon master's life had been poured into Du Xiaofu's mind. It was like a vast ocean, enough for Du Xiaofu to absorb as much as he liked like a fish. Du Xiaofu was also immersed in it. From what Du Xiaofu knew, like most people in this world, weapon talisman masters were the weakest existences among spirit talisman masters. Many adventure teams and adventurers were even unwilling to team up with weapon talisman masters. And now, Du Xiaofu learned from his master, the venerable weapon master, that the strength of a weapon talisman master was definitely not below that of a formation talisman master, and was even comparable to a martial artist. A powerful weapon talisman master, other than being able to refine divine weapons to increase their strength, could also refine all sorts of powerful puppets, which were their own killing moves. No one dared to provoke them at all. However, weapon talisman masters who were able to refine puppets were extremely rare existences amongst all the weapon talisman masters. They were truly too rare. Time passed slowly. Du Xiaofu was completely immersed in the world of weapon talisman masters, absorbing the knowledge of all kinds of weapon talisman masters and comprehending them. As the saying goes, if you understand something, you will understand it all. In Medicine Talisman Master and Formation Talisman Master, Du Xiaofu, under the guidance and influence of his big brother Zhenqin Chun, had at least some good understanding. Now, his understanding of weapon talisman masters, coupled with the knowledge left behind by his master, the venerable weapon master, was definitely improving rapidly. If other weapon talisman masters were to find out about this, they would definitely be infuriated to death by comparison. As the saying goes, if you want to see 1,000 miles, you can reach a higher level. However, Du Xiaofu was equivalent to standing on the shoulders of giants, looking down at the sky from the start. Other artifact talisman masters would take 10 years to comprehend, but at this moment, Du Xiaofu probably wouldn't be able to comprehend it in one day. For a full 10 days, Du Xiaofu was immersed in the comprehension of the tool's symbol master, and did not forget to cultivate the nameless incomplete cultivation method. Walala, inside the wooden house, a mystical white divine light rippled, emitting a wave of pressure. Du Xiaofu sat with his legs crossed as he bathed in white light. The purple-gold celestial tower on his back was also enveloped by the white light of inscriptions. When the white rune light converged into his body, Du Xiaofu's closed eyes suddenly opened, and a smile appeared in his eyes. Du Xiaofu felt the Naiwan Palace in his mind. His mental strength had improved again, and it seemed to be exceptionally full. In his mental strength, there was an ancient and vicissitude aura. It wouldn't be long before he would have another breakthrough in the spiritual talisman master. Then, a shocked expression appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. From the lifetime comprehension left by his master, Du Xiaofu knew how powerful and vast a tool symbol master was, especially his master's achievements in refining weapons, refining puppets, and so on. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had reached the peak of perfection. Among them, what shocked Du Xiaofu the most was the secret weapon technique and sacred body technique left by his master. The secret weapon technique was a technique used to refine spiritual weapons. Above the spiritual weapon was the talisman weapon, above the talisman weapon was the Tao weapon, above the Tao weapon was the magic weapon, and above the magic weapon was the holy weapon. However, not to mention the holy weapon, even the magic weapon was a legendary existence to everyone in the world. The spiritual weapon was endowed with spirituality by the refiner. Just like demonic beasts and wild beasts, there was a qualitative difference. On the other hand, the talisman weapon had its own rune power on the basis of the spiritual weapon. Just like the difference between the pulse movement realm and the pulse spiritual realm, there was a qualitative difference between the two. As for the Tao weapon, it was different from the talisman weapon. It was said that the Tao weapon could communicate with the energy of heaven and earth and borrow the power of heaven and earth. It was said that when the Tao weapon was activated, it could collapse the mountains and crack the earth. It could destroy everything with a raise of one's hand. It could kill opponents of a higher level as easily as taking something out of one's pocket. Its power was unimaginable. The legendary magic weapon itself had the power to move mountains and overturn seas. If it was refined by an expert for his own use, it could reach the heavens and earth and shake mountains and rivers. The secret weapon technique left by the weapon venerable was different from the general method of refining spiritual weapons. The secret weapon technique could refine demonic beasts' secret methods and beast energy into a magic weapon, activate the weapon, communicate with the beast energy in secret methods, and increase the power greatly. It was far from being comparable to a spiritual weapon or ice blade of the same level. It was said that in the Central Plains, many experts were willing to pay a huge price for a spiritual weapon refined by the weapon venerable, but it was difficult to get. Du Xiaofu had learned from the secret soldier manual that it was not an easy task to refine the beast energy and secret method on the ice blade spirit weapon. First of all, the weapon talisman master had to be proficient in the secret methods of beast energy. For the weapon talisman master, how powerful would he have to be able to do it? The holy body technique was even more shocking to Du Xiaofu. Simply put, the holy body technique was equivalent to a body refining technique, but it was not the same. Du Xiaofu learned from the holy body technique that it could refine the human body as if it were a spiritual weapon. At the same time, it could refine some secret methods of beast energy and even simple talisman arrays into the human body. At the end of the refinement, the human body could be comparable to a doctrine weapon, a magic weapon, or a holy weapon. When the human body was refined like a spiritual weapon, it could also be refined with secret methods of beast energy and talisman arrays. When he learned this, Du Xiaofu was completely shocked. If this spread out, it would be enough to make people call him a madman. However, Du Xiaofu believed it. From the holy body technique, Du Xiaofu carefully understood it and found that what his master, the weapon-revered master, said could definitely succeed. It was just that the difficulty was not ordinary. The secret weapon technique and the holy body technique are too powerful. Du Xiaofu was shocked. No wonder his master, the weapon-revered master, was able to move unhindered in the Central Plains. Just by relying on the secret weapon technique and the holy body technique, either one of them was enough to be called abnormal. The mountains overlapped, the valleys were quiet, and the simple and quiet hut was shrouded in a soft light. A soft mist rose from the surrounding mountains. The white mist rendered everything hazy and illusory. In front of the small house, a graceful and beautiful figure was twirling around like a butterfly. Her purple robe was swirling, revealing the allure of her graceful figure. "Little Qing, what are you doing?" Du Xiaofu walked out of the hut and saw Du Xiaoqing spinning around. Her graceful curves were the complete opposite of her innocent appearance. Looking at that alluring curve, Du Xiaofu sighed inwardly. That girl's development was really not bad. He didn't know what that girl's original body was, but judging from the aura when she attacked, her original body was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. Brother, have you come out of seclusion? I'm dying of boredom. Seeing Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoqing immediately turned around and ran over happily. She intimately held Du Xiaofu's arm. In the past 10 days, Du Xiaoqing was extremely bored in the valley alone. She could not even find someone to talk to. The old man called the Medicine King saw her and immediately left, as if he was afraid of her. Du Xiaofu gently patted the back of Du Xiaoqing's head and said with a smile, "We're about to go out. Did you see the Medicine King? That old man seems to be treating Yi Piaoling's injuries." Du Xiaoqing raised her head and said, "Treating injuries?" Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. After a while, in a quiet room inside the hut, Du Xiaofu saw the Medicine King, who was examining Yi Piaoling. A stream of rune light moved around Yi Piaoling's body. Ah! Yi Piaoling, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly screamed. His face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of black blood. "Old man, what did you do to him?" Du Xiaoqing suddenly shouted at the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, with an unfriendly face. Her ethereal eyes stared at the Medicine King, Yi Wuming. "I'm fine. The Medicine King is treating me." Yi Piaoling immediately raised his head and said. He was afraid that Du Xiaoqing would not be polite to the Medicine King. After spitting out that mouthful of black blood, his pale face began to redden. It was obvious that the treatment was effective. Phew! Yi Wuming exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi from his mouth. He withdrew his handprint and looked at Du Xiaoqing with fear in his eyes. "Medicine King, what's the situation?" Du Xiaofu asked the Medicine King, Yi Wuming. "The situation is very serious. The Red Fiend Palm was used by a martial royal realm expert. This kid's internal organs, bones, and muscles have all been infected by the fiend qi. That vicious fiend qi is extraordinary. It is cultivated from the earth's core and the fiend qi. It can corrode everything. However, this boy is really lucky. If it was an ordinary person, he would have died long ago. It is a miracle that he was able to break through again after being severely injured. However, this has made his injuries more serious." Yi Wuming stood up and looked at Du Xiaofu. He continued, "I can treat him, but I will need a lot of heavenly treasures to refine elixirs. I will also need to treat him many times to remove the evil qi that the red evil palm left in this boy's body. This process is very dangerous and cannot be completed overnight. It will take at least 3 years. As long as it can be cured, I will do my best to gather all the heavenly treasures and elixirs needed." As Du Xiaofu's voice faded, he bowed respectfully to the Medicine King. The Medicine King glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "All right, don't say those empty words. If you really want to thank me, do you still have that stone? Why don't you give it to me so I can study it? Continue writing. Continue writing." Chapter 355. I'm afraid that won't do. Du Xiaofu shook his head. He hadn't expected the Medicine King to still be concerned about Du Xiaoyao. Taking out a jade slip, he handed it to the Medicine King and said, "This is more suitable for you. Take it as my thanks for your help. What good things can you give me?" The Medicine King's gaze flickered as he took the jade slip from Du Xiaofu's hand, not paying it much mind. Night fell and the sky was high in the sky. A crescent moon hung quietly in the southwest sky. The cold moonlight spilled down on the earth, illuminating the deep valley. It was so dark and gloomy. Amidst the continuous chain of mountains, on a towering mountain range, 2 figures stood side by side, bathed in the faint moonlight. "This time, thank you very much." Yi Piaoling looked at Du Xiaofu, his black robes fluttering in the wind. His gaze was filled with gratitude. Yi Piaoling knew very well that there seemed to be some grudges between the Du Xiaofu before him and the Medicine King Yi Wuming. However, back then, Du Xiaofu had helped the Medicine King purely so that he could get the Medicine King to treat his injuries. Facing two martial kings, he didn't even care about his own safety. This favor was as heavy as a mountain range. What are you thanking me for? When your injuries are healed, remember that the World Association still has a place for you. Du Xiaofu carried a broadsword on his back, his purple robes fluttering in the wind. He smiled faintly and patted Yi Piaoling's shoulder, unconcerned. All right. Yi Piaoling replied with a simple word. Then, he said, next, do you plan to go to Chaotic Demon City? Brat, stinking brat, where are you? Come out quickly. Du Xiaofu had just opened his mouth to speak when a hurried shout suddenly rang out. Then, in the darkness of the night, a flowing figure suddenly landed in front of the two of them. The flowing light converged. It was the Medicine King, Yi Wuming. His eyes trembled as he looked at Du Xiaofu, as if he had discovered a new continent. Holding the jade slip that Du Xiaofu had given him during the day, he said excitedly, Boy, tell me quickly, where did you get this? Is there anything else? Du Xiaofu looked at the Medicine King with an indifferent expression. With a slight smile on his face, he said, My master left it for me. What Du Xiaofu had given to Yi Wuming in the jade slip was none other than the vast collection of refining methods and insights he had obtained from his master, the venerable weapon. However, what Du Xiaofu had given to the Medicine King was a jade slip that he had made himself. Inside, there were insights on refining tools, refining puppets, and refining other things. There was only a beginning, but no end. However, Du Xiaofu was sure that any talisman master who had obtained the things in the jade slip would go crazy. However, they would not be able to obtain all of it. Their hearts would itch unbearably and they would be unable to sleep. Your master, who is your master? The Medicine King stared at Du Xiaofu. From what he had seen in the jade slip, he could tell that it was definitely the work of a top refining grandmaster. It was definitely not something that an ordinary talisman master could have. It is inconvenient to reveal who my master is. Du Xiaofu said. For the time being, it was not convenient to reveal the name of his master, the venerable weapon. Is there any other refining method? There is definitely more information in this jade slip. How about giving it to me? Yi Wuming was surprised and then asked Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu rolled his eyes at Yi Wuming and said, How can the things of the sect be easily given to outsiders? Medicine King, are you deliberately making things difficult for me? I can give you anything in exchange. The Medicine King, Yi Wuming, looked at Du Xiaofu and said while gritting his teeth. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu suddenly smiled and said, Unless you join my world society. World society. Yi Wuming was surprised. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, What is the strength of the world society? I am the president of the world society. The world society has just started. If the Medicine King can join, you will be the second person in the dark forest to join the world society. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Ha! Hearing this, Yi Wuming was surprised and suddenly couldn't help but laugh and said, Boy, I am serious with you. I am not playing with you. You want me to join the world society. Do you know how many large sects have invited me to join? The price is beyond your imagination. There was once a sect that was willing to give me the price of an empire, but in the end, I refused. If I am willing to join a sect, all the large sects in the central province will come to invite me. Do you think I will join your world society, which is just a plaything? The Medicine King, Dr. Wuming, was absolutely speaking the truth. Although he was only a 6-star talisman master, with his proud medical skills, as long as he was willing, he could enter any large sect and obtain countless cultivation resources. Joining a world guild, which was just a plaything, would be impossible unless he was stupid. First, the world society is definitely not a plaything. Du Xiaofu looked at the Medicine King. On his determined face, there was a golden light in his clear eyes. He said, "It won't be long before the world society rises. 5 years is enough. After 5 years, if you are not satisfied, you can leave the world society. In these 5 years, you can join the world society and I will give you what you want." As his voice fell, another jade slip appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. Why should I believe the words of a child who is still wet behind the ears? Why should I believe that the world society will rise in the future? Yi Wuming looked at the jade slip in Du Xiaofu's hand, but he was not in a hurry to take it. His gaze was fixed on Du Xiaofu. "Because I can convince you to join. If you can join, then it will prove that the world society is capable of rising, unless the dignified medicine king feels that he does not have the ability." Du Xiaofu said with an indifferent smile. The jade slip in his hand was directly in front of the medicine king. He said, "If a sect is willing to give you an empire, then one day, as long as you are willing, the world society will personally conquer 10 empires for you." "You have a sharp tongue, conquering 10 empires for me? Brat, you are truly a newborn calf that is not afraid of a tiger. However, your courage is not bad. 5 years, I will give you 5 years. Within 5 years, I only want an empire in front of me. If after 5 years, there is no empire in front of me, then I will leave the world society without any hesitation." Yi Wuming took the jade slip in Du Xiaofu's hand and said, "Within these 5 years, this old man will play house with a brat who is still wet behind the ears. Welcome to the world society." A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face as he looked at Yi Wuming and said, "I will have to trouble old Yi to be the world society's consecrator for now. In the future, the world society will need old Yi to be more attentive. This junior will be very grateful. Since the medicine king is joining, how about I take this opportunity to join as well?" Yi Piaoling said with a smile. "If you join now, there will be no suitable position for you. However, I have already said that there will always be a position for you. There are not many people in the world society right now. You can be considered the top general of the world society. How about the position of the top general?" Du Xiaofu looked at Yi Piaoling and said with a smile. To be able to persuade the medicine king to join the world society, Du Xiaofu naturally knew what this meant for the world society. It was enough for him to be the leader of the world society right now. Du Xiaofu also knew about Yi Piaoling's talent. Although Yi Piaoling was only at the profound martial marquis level, he would not be ordinary in the future. There was no suitable position for him in the world society right now. He could be considered the top general of the world society right now. The top general of the world society, not bad. Yi Piaoling smiled indifferently. In the dark night, his black robe looked deep. His eyes were as bright as the stars and had a sharp fluctuation. At this moment, Yi Piaoling still did not know that in the near future, the name of the 18 generals of the world would cause people to tremble in fear. Wherever the 18 generals of the world passed by, no one would not bow their heads, causing countless experts to tremble in fear. And his title as the top general of the 18 generals of the world meant that he could suppress the sky and slaughter the world. Yi Wuming carefully put away the jade slip and then said to Du Xiaofu, "What do you plan to do with the Ice King and the Eagle King? Be careful of any changes. Old Yi, what do you think will happen if we let those two join the world society?" Du Xiaofu raised his head and asked the Medicine King. The Ice King, Qin Hengshan, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao, were both martial king experts. With their strength, if they could join the world society, it would be enough to make the world society one of the top forces in the dark forest. Do you think it's simple? The human heart is sinister. If they don't want to join, staying will be a disaster. Moreover, the two of them are infamous figures who have dominated for half of their lives. Do you think they will submit to a brat who is still wet behind the ears? If you want them to join, I'm afraid they will eat you instead. Yi Wuming said with a serious expression. Is that so, Du Xiaofu was not surprised. Du Xiaofu had wandered in the dark forest for so long and understood the sinister nature of the human heart. That Ice King and Eagle King were not easy to deal with. They were both infamous figures who had dominated the world for half of their lives. Wanting them to sincerely join the world society and listen to the orders of a young man who was still wet behind the ears was obviously not going to be easy. The darkness of the night shone on the wooden house in the secluded valley. The surroundings were silent. After a while, Yi Wuming, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoqing, and Yi Piaoling appeared in the wooden house. Other than the four of them, there was also the Ice King, Qin Hengshan, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao, who had been sealed. Chapter 356. Xiu Xiu, the Medicine King's hand seals condensed, and several runic fingerprints landed on the Ice King and Eagle King's acupuncture points, allowing them to speak, but still unable to move. The Ice King and Eagle King had a portion of their acupuncture points released, and their gazes swept over the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, Du Xiaofu, and the other three. Looking at the seemingly harmless Du Xiaoqing, their eyes were still filled with shock. What do you want to do? If you want to kill us or cut us up, say it sooner. Eagle King Gong Dao said as he looked at Yi Wuming. Of the four of them, he naturally saw the Medicine King as the leader. Du Xiaofu looked at Eagle King Gong Dao and Ice King Qin Hengshan, saying, now you have two paths. If you want to die, it's easy, I can destroy you at any time. If you want to live, it's also very simple. Swear your loyalty to me, and you can live. Brat, did I hear wrongly? You mean, you want us to swear our loyalty to you? Ice King Qin Hengshan looked at Du Xiaofu and asked seriously. That's right, swear your loyalty to me. Swear your unconditional loyalty to me. Du Xiaofu said with certainty, without any intention of joking. Huh, Ice King Qin Hengshan laughed loudly, his eyes looking at Du Xiaofu with contempt, saying, Brat, you'd better go home and drink milk for a few more years before coming out. Who do you think you are? You're still wet behind the ears, and you want us to swear our loyalty to you. Don't you know who I am? Humph. Hearing this old guy talk about her brother, how could Du Xiaoqing hold back? She snorted coldly and was about to stand up, but Du Xiaofu gestured for Du Xiaoqing to sit down. His clear eyes looked at Ice King Qin Hengshan, and he said calmly, I know who you are. You're just a fugitive from the Tianhu Empire, hiding in the dark forest for decades. If you had the ability, you wouldn't have to hide here and there. In front of me, it's better for you to hide your martial king status a little. Actually, everything is very simple, if you don't swear your loyalty, then die. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Qin Hengshan stared straight at Du Xiaofu's clear eyes, his expression grew darker and darker. The corners of his eyes twitched a few times, then he revealed a sinister cold smile, saying, Hee, you really are still wet behind the ears. This king roamed for half my life, how would I be scared to be scared by a little brat like you? Go home and drink 2 more years. When this king ruled roamed the world, you're too noisy. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, a fierce aura suddenly exploded out from within his body, and light golden profound energy surged. His fingers clenched into a fist that was covered in golden light, and all of a sudden, it was like a bolt of lightning as it directly smashed onto the head of the Ice King, Qin Hengshan. In Qin Hengshan's constricted eyes, the golden fist grew larger and larger, and a wave of fear climbed out from the depths of his soul, and the aura of death grew within his soul. Boom! Following a low muffled sound, the head of the Grand Ice King Qin Hengshan was blasted into pieces by Du Xiaofu's fist, and a bloody mist and red and white blood instantly sprayed out. With his cultivation sealed, the head of a martial king was only a little harder, so how could it resist Du Xiaofu's fist, which was obviously filled with killing intent? In the end, Qin Hengshan probably didn't expect that the purple-robed youth would turn hostile just like that, and didn't put him in his eyes at all. Martial King realm, just a prisoner. In front of me, you don't have any qualifications to be arrogant. Looking at the exploded head of Qin Hengshan, Du Xiaofu's clear eyes flashed with a fierce killing intent. If it was not long ago, perhaps a martial king realm would have caused Du Xiaofu to be extremely moved and shocked, but his master had already seen an 8-star spirit talisman master. Now that it was a martial king realm, Du Xiaofu was quite concerned, but he definitely wouldn't be too moved and shocked. In a world where the strong were respected, especially in this dark forest, Du Xiaofu wouldn't be polite to Qin Hengshan and Eagle King Gong Dao, these two infamous people. Ice King Qin Hengshan and Eagle King Gong Dao, these two people had been unhindered for their entire lives. What kind of kindness and power, small favors, threats and promises were completely useless against these two people. If they didn't pledge loyalty and submit, then they would be directly killed to prevent future troubles. This brat is getting more and more fierce. Medicine King Yi Wuming was also quite surprised. He also didn't think that Du Xiaofu would be so decisive in killing a martial king realm expert. But Yi Wuming's gaze towards Du Xiaofu was filled with admiration. Decisive in killing. This kind of character was actually a good thing for the world society. Developing a force and cultivating by oneself were two completely different things. There were too many things to be done to achieve great things, and being decisive in killing was one of the most important things. After killing a martial king Ice King Qin Hengshan, Yi Piaoling's sharp gaze only slightly moved, then it returned to normal. His thin lips were filled with arrogance, and there was a hidden sharpness in his eyes. It seemed that he didn't find Du Xiaofu's actions strange at all. Blood spurted out from Qin Hengshan's head, staining Eagle King Gong Dao's face quite a bit. His gaze was close at hand, and he saw Qin Hengshan's head explode with a punch. He couldn't be any more dead, and he was deeply shocked. Originally, he also thought that the purple-robed youth was still wet behind the ears and was just playing around. Although the purple-robed youth's talent was extraordinary, in the end, he was still wet behind the ears. Only now did Gong Dao realize that in his heart, he seemed to have underestimated the purple-robed youth. That decisive character of killing, that demeanor of looking down on martial kings, how could it be possessed by an ordinary person? In the original exchange, Eagle King Gong Dao could also clearly feel that the purple-robed youth's aura was like that of a peerless fierce beast, suppressing the vast sky. It was extraordinary and extraordinary. It seems that you also won't pledge loyalty. Du Xiaofu cast a glance at Eagle King Gong Dao, killing intent surging in his eyes, and a golden light exploded. I pledge my loyalty, I pledge my loyalty, Eagle King Gong Dao's voice suddenly rang out, afraid that he would be a bit too slow. He personally saw Ice King Qin Hengshan being shattered in front of his eyes, and he absolutely believed that this purple-robed youth would not hesitate to kill him. Under the true threat of death, martial kings were also afraid of death. The pride of a martial king, in the face of true death, was nothing. Du Xiaofu's fist wrapped in light golden profound energy suddenly stopped in front of Eagle King Gong Dao's nose. The sharp wind caused the surrounding air to tremble, and it swept Eagle King Gong Dao's eyes, making it difficult for him to look straight at it. Remember, you chose to pledge your loyalty. If you betray me, I will make you beg for death in the future. Du Xiaofu withdrew his fist. As his voice fell, the sharp killing intent in his eyes disappeared, and he once again regained his clarity. He looked at Eagle King Gong Dao, and a smile appeared on his face. He softly said, "Welcome to the World Society." What is the World Society? Gong Dao suspiciously raised his head and asked. At this moment, he couldn't help but have a feeling of escaping death. But at this moment, when Gong Dao raised his head and looked at Du Xiaofu, his gaze was very uneasy. This purple-robed youth simply changed his face too quickly. Right now, his smiling face was completely different from the decisive killing intent from before. At such a young age, his expression was so relaxed, and he was so decisive in killing. This kind of youth was absolutely terrifying. You will know what the world society is like in the future. Take this goo poison pill and you will be a member of the world society. Only then will I be able to trust you. The Medicine King stood up and walked to Du Xiaofu's side. He looked at Gong Dao and said, after taking the goo poison pill, the goo poison will spread throughout your body, but it will not affect your cultivation. However, you must take the antidote once a year. Otherwise, the goo poison will flare up and devour your essence and blood. It cannot be removed, and you will be better off dead. If you obediently join the world society, your life will naturally not be in danger. If you betray us, I don't need to say more about your fate. You decide for yourself. Right after he spoke, a black pill appeared in the Medicine King's palm. It gave off a faint black aura, accompanied by strange flickering black talisman scripts. It was like a living thing, extremely strange, and gave off a pungent and unpleasant smell. Gong Dao's gaze wavered. He knew very well that as a prisoner, he had fallen into his grandmother's hands. If he didn't take this goo poison pill, he probably wouldn't be able to leave this place. If he took it, he would probably be controlled from now on. The goo poison pill refined by the Medicine King could not be removed by normal people. I am willing to take it. Gong Dao nodded. Between life and death and being controlled by others, he still chose to live. Remember, this is your own choice. The King of Medicine stuffed the goo poison pill into the Gong Dao's mouth. After the Gong Dao swallowed it, the King of Medicine formed the hand seal. Rune finger seals fell and began to unseal the Gong Dao's body. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Du Xiaofu didn't say anything at the side, but his expression changed inwardly. With Yi Wuming's goo poison pill, Gong Dao would have no choice but to be obedient. Although it was said that the most important thing to recruit people was to recruit them mentally, at this moment, he had no choice but to recruit them with force. At this moment, the world society had the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, Yi Piaoling, Gong Dao, and Hua Fankong. Du Xiaofu felt that the world society had truly formed an embryonic outline. A 6-star spiritual talisman master and a martial king. In terms of strength, they were not inferior to the 1 pavilion, 1 castle, and 2 sects. However, in terms of foundation, they were not far behind. The entire world society didn't even have many people now. Naturally, it couldn't be compared to the 1 pavilion, 1 castle, and 2 sects. Chapter 357. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. Far away from the dark forest, there was a mountain range with steep cliffs and surging rivers. Lush trees covered many buildings that stretched into the distance. It was a magnificent sight, ancient and profound. There were surging rivers in the mountain range, winding along the rivers. Even the mountains on both sides were dark green in color. Mountain after mountain rose from the ground, strange peaks spread out, and strange rocks of strange shapes. In a quiet courtyard, a girl in tight clothes rushed in from afar. She was 21 or 22 years old and had a peerless appearance. She was Ouyang Shuang from the Tianwu Academy. Uncle Shi, is there any news of him? Moments later, Ouyang Shuang appeared in the hall and asked Mu Rongxi. The pulse spirit stage is mysterious. You actually broke through again in the comprehension stage. The cultivation technique your father chose for you is indeed not bad. Mu Rongxi looked at Ouyang Shuang, feeling the aura fluctuating from her body. He was rather surprised. His slender figure moved slightly, holding a white fan in his slender and fair hand. The corners of his mouth curled slightly. Although he was middle-aged, it did not affect his handsomeness at all. Instead, it was even more charming. He looked at Ouyang Shuang and said, "Girl, you really care about that brat. You asked him the moment you came out." "Uncle Shi, what nonsense are you talking about?" Ouyang Shuang rolled her eyes at Mu Rongxi and said, "I'm just worried about his safety. It's been so long, why hasn't he returned to the academy?" Don't worry, we already have news of that brat. The Academy received news that he even appeared near the cave of the weapon sovereign more than 10 days ago, Mu Rongxi said to Ouyang Shuang. It's good that he's fine. Ouyang Shuang immediately heaved a sigh of relief when she heard this. Mu Rongxi's gaze trembled, but she was not happy. Looking at Ouyang Shuang, she said, "Don't be happy too early. That kid is fine now, but he doesn't know how to withdraw the mysterious spirit heavenly vine. Instead, he has caused a great disaster. He killed several martial marquis experts of the Black Fiend sect. Even the only son of the Black Fiend sect's master, Xue Tianqiu, was killed by that kid. It is said that Xue Tianqiu is furious. The entire Black Fiend sect is looking for that kid everywhere." Ouyang Shuang's eyes widened when she heard this. She only recovered after a long time and said, "Uncle Shi, what should we do? Will he be in danger?" "According to what I know, there are already experts in the academy who have already gone out to look for him. The rest is up to him to fend for himself." Mu Rongxi sighed. He looked at Ouyang Shuang and said, "There is still a month before the Tianwu University Assembly, which is held once every 20 years. The Tianwu University Assembly is not something that every student will be able to participate in. If you have the opportunity to participate in the Tianwu University Assembly this time, you should try your best to fight for it. However, I'm afraid that you will have to enter the top 10. I've also heard the instructor talk about the Heaven Martial Assembly. Uncle Shi, what exactly is the Heaven Martial Assembly related to?" Ouyang Shuang curiously asked. "It has a lot to do with the Heaven Martial Talisman layer. It is also the mysterious part of the Heaven Martial Talisman layer. Every 20 years, a special change will occur in the Heaven Martial Talisman layer, causing the time to accelerate. At that time, the time inside the Heaven Martial Talisman layer will be 10 times faster than the outside world. There is a total of half a year. After half a year, the Heaven Martial Talisman layer will return to normal." Mu Rongxi said to Ouyang Shuang, "During this half a year in the Heaven Martial Talisman layer is equivalent to 5 years. However, at that time, at most 10 people will be able to enter the Heaven Martial Talisman layer to comprehend the Heaven Martial Talisman layer. Only the top 10 of the Heaven Martial Assembly will be able to enter the Heaven Martial Talisman layer to comprehend the Heaven Martial Talisman layer." What a strange Heaven Martial Talisman layer. Ouyang Shuang was astonished. Half a year was equivalent to 5 years. Compared to her peers, she had an extra 4.5 years. Furthermore, she had to comprehend the Heaven Martial Talisman layer within the Heaven Martial Talisman layer. How could Ouyang Shuang, who was ranked on the martial ranking, not know what that meant? Big eyes and bright eyes were moved. Ouyang Shuang sighed inwardly. What kind of strength was she 4.5 years ago? If she were to go back to 4.5 years ago with her current cultivation and strength, how many people of the same generation could be compared to her? This was equivalent to having an extra 4.5 years in the lead among those of the same generation. What a terrifying effect this had. Tianwu Academy was still the same as before. However, without Du Xiaofu in the academy, all the students felt that something was missing. Du Xiaofu's feat of killing a martial lord in the Dark City and Dark Forest and purchasing the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine had already spread throughout the entire academy. During their leisure time, Du Xiaofu was still the focus of discussion. Right now, even more students were waiting for Du Xiaofu's return. This was especially so for the honorary students. Du Xiaofu represented all the freshmen and honorary students. All of them were waiting for the return of the purple-robed youth. The Peace Plaza had also become lively recently. As the Tianwu conference was about to begin, it was said that only the top 100 people on the martial ranking had the qualifications to participate. Thus, many older students had started to challenge each other in order to enter the top 100. Under such intense competition and challenges, the top 100 of the martial ranking had many changes every day. There were many new names that jumped onto the martial ranking. However, no matter how the rankings changed, it was almost always at the bottom of the rankings. The top 50 were calm and there were no changes. When it came to the top 50 of the martial ranking, unless the students in the top 50 started to challenge each other, it would be difficult for the people behind to change the rankings. In the valley, in the mountains, there was a simple wooden house. It was peaceful. "Brat, are you saying that you want me to go to the Chaos Demon City and fight for you?" "That's right. You want me to leave everything to you?" In the small hall, Yi Wuming was glaring at Du Xiaofu. This was because Du Xiaofu had just told him to bring Yi Piaoling and the Medicine King's Gong Blade to the Chaotic Demon City to settle down. However, Du Xiaofu wanted to return to the Tianwu Academy first. "Old Yi, you've misunderstood. I reckon that I won't be able to leave the Chaotic Demon City for a while. Thus, I might as well return to the Tianwu Academy first. After that, I'll rush to the Chaotic Demon City," Du Xiaofu said to Yi Wuming. Originally, Du Xiaofu wanted to go to the Chaotic Demon City. However, he had been delayed for quite some time and he still had the mysterious spirit Heaven Vine with him. Furthermore, he was afraid that Ouyang Shuang and the little tiger would be worried. Thus, he decided to make a trip back to the Tianwu Academy first before heading to the Chaotic Demon City. With the Medicine King Yi Wuming and the Eagle King's Gong Blade overseeing the Chaotic Demon City, Du Xiaofu was completely at ease. "If you're not going to leave everything to me, then what are you?" Yi Wuming glared at Du Xiaofu. He waved his hand and said, "I can let you return to the Tianwu Academy, but you must return as soon as possible. The World Assembly is yours. It hasn't even started and you want to leave everything to me. This isn't good." "I understand. I will definitely return as soon as possible," Du Xiaofu said with a smile. The next morning, when the sky was just beginning to brighten and the night had just faded away, two purple figures flew into the sky from the deep valley. "Brother, what kind of place is the Tianwu Academy? Are we going to the Tianwu Academy now?" A moment later, on the stone path in the valley, Du Xiaoqing was extremely excited. She was like a little bird in the morning, chirping happily along the way. They had finally left the boring valley. "The Tianwu Academy is where I study," Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Originally, he was worried that he would encounter Xue Tianqiu and other martial kings on the way. However, with Du Xiaoqing by his side, he felt much more relaxed. Even if he encountered martial kings, he wouldn't have to worry. In the dark forest, as time passed, the excitement in the sealed area of the revered weapons cave gradually died down after a month or so. The sealed area was rummaged through multiple layers, but no more treasures appeared. In the end, the densely packed crowd had no choice but to disperse. Many people suspected that the real treasure left behind by the revered weapon might have been obtained by someone else without anyone knowing. Otherwise, the revered weapon wouldn't have only left behind a few ordinary puppets and a few talisman weapons and spiritual weapons. However, no one knew who had obtained the treasure without anyone noticing. Everything was just a guess, and it could only be used as a topic of conversation after a meal. In the vast forest, the sunlight passed through the layers of thick leaves, leaving mottled traces in the dense forest. Whoosh whoosh, suddenly, a dozen figures flashed on a towering tree. They were extremely agile and immediately hid in the towering tree. "Be careful, there are more people coming. This time, our Black Scale gang came late and didn't obtain the treasure of the revered weapon. However, we have a chance to loot everywhere. This trip is not in vain." The leading figure was about 40 years old. He gave off the feeling of a monkey with a pointy mouth and cheeks. He waved his hand and signaled for the crowd to hide. A moment later, a man and a woman walked out from the dense forest. Both of them were quite young and wore purple robes. The man and woman walked over slowly and leisurely. They didn't seem to be on guard at all. "It's two rookies. Attack!" The leader, a large man with a protruding mouth and ape-like cheeks, immediately waved his hand. Suddenly, the sound of rushing wind was emitted from the surrounding towering trees. After which, a dozen figures directly descended and tightly surrounded the man and woman. "Brother, who are they?" In the dense forest, suddenly being surrounded by a dozen figures, Du Shaoqing was not worried at all. Instead, her face was filled with excitement. They should be robbers. Du Xiaofu smiled. Looking at the dozen people, he sensed their auras. Only half of them were at the pulse spirit realm, while the other half were at the pulse spirit realm. The strongest leader was at the peak of the perfect pulse spirit realm, which was considered a pretty good cultivation strength. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.